Things they get up to nowadays.
Hello, everyone in the chat room. Oh, I should probably get.
There's nobody in the chat room unless.
Really? Uh-oh.
Well,
why not?
I don't know. There were people in there, but I disconnected because my 24 hours of internet ran out. So I hadn't spotted it, and I went, "Oh, what's happened? I've disconnected from everything." So I had to pay for another day.
Neville, you're 13 seconds behind. That's the problem. We were right on.
I can see I'm going to have to rejoin.
Right. You know, always somebody complaining. And why is it always Nev? That's what I'd like to know. What do you have to say for yourself?
Okay.
Hello, Rebecca, temporarily.
There it is. That's what.
Yes, you are a loser, Nev. Just kidding.
All these people suddenly in there. I've rejoined, and suddenly there's lots of people there.
Yeah, look at that. So we started the broadcast, obviously. Otherwise, you would not be able to see me or Nick. Hello, Simon Vetta.
Oh, this is a test. Test to see if I can get to as far as the beer fridge without pulling my earphones out.
As soon as he said that, I was like, that's not going to work. Nope. There's no way.
So we are. So I guess we're waiting for Dana. Although we thought he'd be ready around 5. Maybe it's going to be closer to 5:30. I don't know. Have not received a text from him in a while. Liz, have you heard anything?
Did he send us his schedule or just the time he was going to be available?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't either.
Yes.
Yes.
That's my answer.
Why is it does Mr. Shaw think that my eyesight is so good I can see an L and an R that are 1 millimeter in size?
I don't know. Kids. They make these things for kids, man.
Yeah, they do.
That have good vision.
So I went to the liquor store on the corner, a huge, great big sign. When I got into the hotel, I thought, oh, that'll be perfect. Just for the show, I'll pop in there and get some beer. Mm-hmm. So I went to the liquor store and he didn't have a single IPA in the whole place.
What liquor store is that?
Exactly.
Not a very good one.
It's full of expensive whiskeys and fine wines. He's not a beer chap.
Yeah.
Not really. He had one fridge and a few paltry beers. I managed to find a nice Peroni. So I'm drinking Italian today.
Okay. It works.
And I am drinking a wonderful Cabernet Sauvignon from Sonoma.
Very nice.
Robert Strong Cabernet.
I have mystery drink.
Mystery
gloop.
Juice. It's grapefruit juice.
That leafy background, Rebecca, is the wall of my hotel room. This is one of the Indigo properties in Sarasota.
Is it blue?
Indigo. Indigo isn't blue. Blue indigo.
Well, I don't know why they call it indigo. Because they're usually not blue. But they have really nice bathrooms. They have like these big, huge walk-in bathrooms with big glass walls, and you walk into your shower, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, well, oops, what did I do? The volume on my mic all of a sudden went down.
I don't know. It sounds the same to me, although it made like a little click when that happened.
That's odd.
Mary,
what the heck?
Its fleece was white as snow.
Okay. Anyway, I love this little hotel in Sarasota. Yes, Ben, we use Evernote, which is a cross-platform, and that's the way I manage everything, or we manage everything behind the scenes. And I have filters set up, and things go into certain folders. And then what Liz does is she takes, when we have kind of decided what our lineup's going to be for news and feedback. Then we have various folders. It's very, very technical. We have staging folders, and then we have current show folders and all that kind of stuff. But what Liz will finally do is put everything in a Google Doc, and then all the co-hosts, all they have to do is look at the show notes Google Doc.
Just have to show up. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, just show up. Basically, that's a pretty low life.
In fact, we can usually get away with not even showing up.
He's calling us low lives, Nick.
Well, I guess. I mean,
he's not wrong.
I get what I pay for.
Yes.
It's just true. Exactly what you pay for.
Yes, Sam. Liz does rock. I don't know if you noticed.
She does paper and scissors.
I'm sorry.
She does paper and scissors as well.
Liz, you probably noticed, because you're always on top of everything, I added 2 more items to the news folder, but I also added them to the Google Doc. Hello, Paul Verhagen in Cincinnati.
Sorry, I'm really
so
hungry.
what we're doing here is kind of sort of laying. We'll see if he'll show up, although nobody has heard from him in a while. So we'll see. Maybe what we'll do is perhaps start, and then he can just join us whenever he joins us. Hey, and we have the potential to have a shorter show today because we didn't have like an overwhelming amount of feedback, and we also didn't have an overwhelming amount of news. Although, knowing us, we will be able to stretch it out to 3 hours without a problem.
Probably an hour before we even get to the news.
Yeah, we probably won't even be able to do everything that we have in the folders.
Right. It's probably still over ambitious.
Yeah. So never mind. Forget I said anything. But while I'm thinking about it, we could start the recording if you'd like.
Okay.
Yep.
So start. Ladies and gentlemen, start your recorders.
Hello. Yes, I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. And now I don't have my clapboard. That's the technical term, isn't it? Clapboard. Please tell me,
maybe,
Sir Neville, Mr. Professional Filmographer, Videographer. Okay, so I'm going to use my low-tech clapboard or hands. So we're going to go 3, 2, 1. That's about normal.
We're all in the same
Clapperboard.
country.
Yeah,
we are. I know. We're all in the same time zone.
So, yeah, Eastern Standard.
Ooh, yeah. How's that?
How about that? I don't know.
Wow.
The stars have aligned today. That's what happened.
Yeah. Clapperboard. Thank you. Clapperboard. Huh. And it figures that Neville would know something about the clapper.
Yeah, he does a lot.
Sorry, Nev.
Any criticism or negative commentary toward Neville is all deserved. So don't. Okay. All right. And let me do.
I'm confused that the fire thing has no letter attached to the actual. You've done such a dreadful job here, Jeff.
What are you talking about?
Well, all the other things, when you click on it, it says B, sharp rise in air crash deaths. When I click on your link and get Sam Tui Aviation Travel,
it's all chaos, Nick.
the system just falls apart because you haven't put. Yeah.
What do you mean?
You haven't put a title at the top.
Oh, it's because it's the actual article that we're referring to.
So I haven't a clue where I am. How am I supposed to follow this?
I know, and it took my computer forever to load it too. It was for some reason.
Yeah, I know. My bandwidth.
So I clicked on the same link you did, and I see major fire to delay Airbus production. Then I show up. There's a picture of an Airbus 1000.
He's just giving you a hard time that it's not neatly organized with a letter to denote.
Exactly.
Well, actually, unless there's a reason to actually show the note from Evernote, I prefer having the actual link from the article for you guys to look at.
Oh, well.
Oh,
It's not the way we usually get it.
Link in the chat.
Well, I know it's not the way you usually get it, but that's the way
we're
I
used
do
to
it.
Liz's system.
Liz, would you go ahead and connect, please? It's time for you to host the show.
Too late. A, B, C. You see, I'm completely out of sync now.
Don't worry, Jeff.
Place.
Oh, I see. Because it doesn't have the name in the tab.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I figured it out, though, and I cross-referenced. So
okay.
I'm also choking on spaghetti.
Okay.
I'm just going to drink more beer.
See what a bunch of little whiners I have to work with, people.
Renas.
I was just saying I figured it out. Like I'm not confused. It's okay. One of us knows what's going on here.
Thank you, Steph.
You have to have
I'm not sure about the other two of you. But at least I think I know what's going on.
I don't know where I am.
You're right here.
All I know is that I've spent another $40 in Apple that I didn't need to spend this month.
Well, they've been hurting. You know, they
I can tell. All those shareholders are squealing like little piggies.
They appreciate all of your contributions, I'm sure.
Yeah, all of my forgotten cables.
Yeah. Okay, let me do a sound check here. Oh, you know what? This time we're going to do our clapperboard, since now I'm actually recording.
Okay. Didn't you just tell us to turn on the recorders?
Yeah,
before
I told you to turn on your recorders.
You know what? I'm going to stop mine. Wait. Let me stop mine, and that way it'll be a fresh.
Ooh, thank you.
No, I'm not, Shanna. You have to find your way in there.
Through all the multiple clap events.
Yeah, all right. I'll be nice. I'll stop it and restart it.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I'll forget.
What is this the new thing? 2019? This is the kind of interaction we're going to have now?
Yeah,
cooperation. Trying to start off on the right foot here, Jeff.
It doesn't feel like it.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry.
3, 2, 1, clap. Clapperboard.
Clapperboard.
Am I drinking the whole bottle, James? Probably. Knowing me? Yeah, probably. If not, I'll find some friend to help me drink it. Probably not.
All your friends.
Yeah.
We'd help you drink it too, but you're not
an imaginary friend.
Here.
Okay, so we're actually recording now, which is good. And let me do this. Load up. Jingle.
Liz is fixing the links for.
Oh,
Nick.
Well,
don't. You're enabling his bad behavior, Liz. Don't.
I'll have to re-download them now. No. It's all too hard.
You can't satisfy him. No.
WAPG. It's the airline pilot guy.
Good volume. Too high. Too low.
Sounds okay to me.
Okay. Oh, I was going to do something, but I forgot to load it, so never mind. I'm not going to do it.
Oh no! Load it. Do it.
Okay. It's just been something I love. Somebody did something special for us a while back, and it's been a while since I played it. And I was just thinking about it today, and I thought, I should play that intro. More often. So let me pull up the Dropbox importer from this, and now I have to remember what the name of it is.
First chance I get, I need to go along and get some snacks from the club.
Oh, that's why. Okay, go.
Oh, okay, right, gone.
Sorry, folks. We're what do they call that? Postpone? No, we're Oh, Dana, looks like I'll be a little late for a 1700 start. Yeah,
just a little.
No kidding. Liz, I'm telling you, this is not the way to be a good parent.
Discipline.
Tough love. Let him figure it out. Steph did.
It's a growth opportunity for him.
Mm-hmm. But
no, I hadn't even noticed, actually. I'm just inattentive is the problem.
Well, I never thought it would be something that would be a difficult thing to work with.
Well.
Speaking of difficult things to work with.
Consider your audience here.
What is the name of that file? Yeah, this might be a moot point. Since I can't remember what I named it. Here, let me
Not
do
something
this.
obvious.
Well, it might be the way. It's too hard to describe what I'm looking for here.
It's all right. Gives me time to eat a little bit of food here.
Okay.
And Nick probably will get locked out of his hotel room again.
Again, yeah.
Nick's having a tough day already.
Yeah, he's left things at home. He's had to go to the Apple store twice for things that he forgot. Johnny Fever. No, I don't want Johnny Fever.
Yum yum.
Snacks.
Is Steve, is Captain Steve in the chat room? Captain Steve, are you in the chat room?
I have not seen him.
Okay. Darn it. Remember that Johnny Carson thing that he did?
Oh, yeah.
No.
That was ways back.
No Captain Steve. Dang it. He probably wouldn't remember what he named it either. Oh, wait. Maybe if I did a email search for...
What kind of snacks did you get?
Nuts, tomatoes, cheese, grapes. They had hot stuff, but I didn't want to hang about in the queue.
Yeah. That's just at the hotel?
Yeah, we're on the nice floor here.
Ooh.
the hoity-toity floor.
Tell you what, my hotel stay last night was great. It was like right at the airport. They sent me the digital key, so I never had to even go to the desk to check in.
Oh,
I just
wow.
went straight to the room, used my phone to unlock the door to the hotel room,
Oh, how cool is that?
crawled into bed, set my alarm for an hour and a half before my flight this morning, rolled out of bed. There was a thing in the app that said, "Do you want to check out?" I said, "Yes." Done. Right into the terminal.
Brilliant.
I never had to talk to anyone.
Brilliant. Fabulous.
How do you feel?
Oh, man.
Having knocked out of your football tournament in the first round, though, how do you feel about that?
Second round. Made it to the second round.
Okay.
Yeah. Of like
how do you feel about that? I mean, a long way to go to only get through
not
one
good.
round.
It was we were pretty decisive in the first round. I thought we had a good team. And then we were playing with myself and my cousin's daughter, and we were playing her father and my aunt. And it was pretty decisive on their end for their win. We didn't really stand a chance against them. And they ended up losing in the final, actually.
Oh,
well.
It's always nice when you can say you lost to the winner because you feel that's justified.
Yeah, we lost to the first losers, though.
Yeah. Did you just have the one game, or did you have a second tournament?
No, it's just the one tournament, but there were... I'm trying to think how many...
December 17th?
Teams were there?
Liz, are you talking about 2017? I think it was before the 300, so it would be 2017.
Let's see here. I think I took a picture of the...
What's the question?
So there were... One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 19 teams? Is that right?
Oh, wow. All family?
All family.
Oh, wow.
Big family.
Yeah. Hadn't contraception got to your part of the world yet?
No.
The more the merrier.
Well, knowing Steph's family, they'll all have been very merry.
Very merry? Is that what you said? Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't sure I heard you right. There's like a little blip in the internet signal there. I was like, what did he say? No, it was a very nice day. Good to catch up with everyone.
One last thing to try here. What is Dana saying?
He is saying nothing.
I saw something that he said that
It said, looks like I'll
Here's
be
a
a little
good
late.
He said
Just
arrived.
arrived in San Antonio.
Oh, does he mean like the airport and not the?
Not sure.
Okay.
That might be the hotel. That might be the airport.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start as soon as I can figure out where this stupid thing is. I'm very close to giving up, though. But I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to look in the...
He said, looks like I'll be a little late for a 1700 start. Just are fed in SAT.
What?
That was a speech recognition error.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What is he using his watch to dictate? Can you do that? I haven't tried that yet.
You can do it with your phone.
Okay. Well, I know you
And
can
your
do it with
watch.
your phone.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do it with your watch.
Okay, I give up. We're not doing the Johnny Carson intro because I can't find it. Too bad. And what? I must have seen it somewhere. Maybe I was just looking through some archived shows and so, oh, that's right. I remember that. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't see it. So forget it. Okay. So I think that, let me just look at this script here. Make sure that everything is in order. I doubt it.
Unlikely.
It's very unlikely. But we can all have dreams, can't we?
Yeah. I mean, you can get by with them.
Yeah. You can get by with your dreams.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
They'll keep you going.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm ready.
Okay.
So let's look at the time. 22 or so.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 356.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 12. Must be some kind of interference with the network.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounded like. Add it to Captain Nick's outtakes for next year's Christmas Plain Tales.
Nice try, Jeff. Nice try.
Thank you. Well, maybe the second time's a charm.
Mm-hmm.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 350. Oh, damn it.
Third time's the charm.
I have to hit the button, another button there. Okay, here we go.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 356.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 222 in the Indigo Recording Studios in Sarasota, Florida. Today's show was recorded on the 2nd of January, 2019.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Put your ride and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, aviation news since the last show, your feedback, and this week's plain tale, bathtubs, potatoes, shoes, and flat irons. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 356 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast where we cover news in aviation and especially our favorite part, covering your wonderful feedback. And here to help me in that endeavor from our Lakeside studio in South Carolina, a doctor, a skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot, Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. And also joining us from across the pond in his recording studio in the English countryside, a professional photographer, former RAF fighter pilot, current captain for an international airline based in London, England, Captain Nick.
Happy New Year!
Woo!
Hi, everybody. Whee! It's the first show of a new year. Isn't this fantastic?
It is. And you know what? It's so far the best show.
That's
in
right.
2019.
Setting the bar
Absolutely.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Setting the bar. Yeah.
The best accuracy record for any show in this year.
Yeah. So right now, I think we're right at 100%.
Absolutely
Well,
perfect.
Almost.
It won't be long
No, I know
before
you've
we
already.
dip below that. Shh, they don't know about all the outtakes.
No. I'm talking about since we've been recording for real.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well,
Have we already screwed up?
Nick's not in England, but that's okay.
He's not. Oh, shit.
I was
Okay.
hoping
Well,
you'd
then
leave
where
it
the
in
heck
there.
are you?
Have another bottle, Jeff.
Nick, I've only had a few sips, so I can't blame it on the wine. So please tell us, Nick, where the heck are you?
Well, I'm in wonderful Miami, of course. I've been looking for those two blokes who, those vice cops who wore suits and T-shirts with the sleeves rolled up and Miami Vice, but I haven't been able to find them yet. I don't know where they work. They're not there
I think
anymore.
you're a couple decades too late, I think.
About 30 years too late.
But it's lovely and warm down here. I tell you what, it's gorgeous. Lovely and sunny, warm. So what am I doing? I'm sitting in my hotel room.
Well,
Glutton for punishment.
yes, and that dedication that you have for this wonderful production is amazing. And here's a toast to you. Thank you.
I just think I'm slightly balmy. Cheers.
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 And let's see. Well, since we're talking to you and you're talking from Miami, what has been happening? So, it hasn't been that long since we've recorded the last show, only a few days, right?
No,
Or was it almost a week?
I've trimmed my Christmas beard down to its normal sort of length, and my Santa hat is back in the UK. The decorations will be coming down shortly, so that's the end of Christmas. New Year's Eve was a bit of a non-event. They called me saying, "Oh, Nick, you're coming on standby at 6 a.m. in the morning." I said, "Yeah." They said, "Well, we need you for a flight at 10." And I said, "Well, hang on a minute. I'm on a 4-hour standby. If you called me at 6, no way am I going to get to the airport by 10. So you're going to have to delay the flight." They said, "Oh, yeah, that's why we thought we'd phone you tonight and let you know, so you might be able to get up a bit early." Yeah, okay, thanks, guys. So I was up at
They're just trying to be helpful, Nick.
Yeah, they are. They're just trying to. So to stop the passengers from being delayed, I was up just after 4. Luckily, the roads were fairly clear. There were just about 50 drunks all weaving around the the motorways. Exactly. But it meant that I went to bed very early, missed any concept of a celebration. No alcohol passed my lips. I was woken momentarily by the fireworks at midnight, but soon got back to sleep again. And here I am in Miami.
Okay, that's right. So you were flying yesterday, January 1st.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on a 2-night Miami. So I would normally, on most of these flights, I'd do 1 night and go home again.
Mhm.
But this is a 2-nighter. So came out with 2 first officers, one of whom is passengering home tonight because apparently I only need 1 first officer to go home because with the tailwinds going home, the flight time's shorter.
I thought they figured that you can make your way back to London, but you might not make it to Miami on your own.
Needed a little extra
Exactly
help
right.
for the navigation away from home.
Yeah. I know the way home. That's easy. Finding Miami is the hard bit. So that's tomorrow afternoon, evening. We set off back home and get in at about 7:30 in the morning. Friday. So there you go, 4-day trip.
Well, excellent. And I'm glad that it worked out that we could record the show while you were on your off day in Miami.
Oh, it's brilliant. Nearly had a disaster. The
wow.
cable for my computer had a fault in it. And about 2 hours before the show was due to start, I was down in the Apple store desperately trying to work out what the problem with my computer was. And I'm telling this girl, I've got a really important video conference in a couple of hours. Can you fix it? And she said, the tech boys say the next appointment's in 4.5 hours. Can you wait that long? I said, no.
Then you started having a fit. Did you start taking your clothes off and running around naked in the Apple store?
I started shouting and screaming. And so she said, no, calm down. Well, let's just take a look at the cable and things. And let me put one of my, and of course we isolated the problem and that was fine. So I've got new cable now and everything works.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that's good to hear. Glad that you're all equipped appropriately, so to speak.
I've been equipped appropriately for many years.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
I knew that as that was coming out of my mouth, I'm thinking that is not the right thing to say.
Can't make references to
Equipment.
equipment in general.
Well, I don't really know how to transition. Steph, what have you been up to? Anything interesting since our before Christmas show? Oh, no, it was after Christmas.
It was after Christmas.
Yeah, between
Before
Christmas
New Year's. Yeah.
Yes.
Had another kind of low-key weekend last weekend. We did finally make it to. I finally made it to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, which is here in Charlotte. It was actually pretty neat. A lot of historical stuff, with the kind of the history of stock car racing here in the U.S. and especially the Southeast, and old vehicles to look at, memorabilia type stuff, and simulators to drive.
Oh.
So, I mean, they're not full motion or anything, but they're pretty fun. The tricky part is you end up driving against a group of people, and most of them are not very good at driving the simulator.
You beat the pants off them, didn't you?
I did win one of the races, but right at the very end, right before the time ran out, I had someone coming at me the wrong direction on the track, and I tried to move out of their way, and they moved right back into my way. I don't know how
they managed that.
I don't know. Okay. That particular race, about half the field didn't actually manage to complete one lap on the track.
Wow.
So it was interesting, but a lot of fun. Not flying related, but get in a car, go fast, all fun stuff. And let's see, for New Year's, I had to work all day on New Year's Eve, so didn't get home until kind of the usual time, 6:30 at night. Spent a few hours just watching TV and doing laundry, and then watched the ball drop on TV at midnight, and then I actually went out for a run because it was almost 70 degrees outside, and I wanted to get my first run of the year in. So 4 miles. Came home, went to bed, got up, flew to Chicago for a family get-together for the day yesterday, and flew back this morning, did a little bit of work this afternoon, and now I'm back here with you all.
All right.
I can't believe you ran
going on in
get
Chicago.
The first run of the morning. I mean,
I was done by 1 a.m.
Wow, I'm impressed. 5 miles by 1 a.m.
4 miles, yeah.
So, did you say something about going to Chicago?
I did. Sorry, did it break up there?
No, it's just that it just seemed like you didn't spend much time on it. So what exactly was going on in Chicago?
No, it's a family get-together that happens every year at one of my aunt and uncle's houses in the suburbs. And sometimes up to 50 people invade their house. And it's because my uncle is a wonderful cook and the food is delicious. But in order to eat, you have to participate in the foosball tournament, which happens every year and has kind of taken on a life of its own, has its own Facebook page. There's a lot of smack talk that occurs throughout the year. And we won the first round, me and my partner, one of my cousin's kids. And then we were very decidedly beaten in the second round and did not advance beyond that. But came down to there was a good final match between one of my cousins, his mom, who's my aunt, and a couple of other relatives. So it was fun to watch.
Okay, well,
can't believe you lost, Steph. Where was that fighting spirit?
I know. And my cousin that I was playing with, my cousin's daughter, we were both swimmers. as I was a swimmer as a kid, and she's a swimmer currently. I was like, yeah, this is great. We have good work ethic. We have good hand-eye coordination. We'll figure this out and do pretty
It
well.
didn't translate very well.
It didn't
to
translate very well.
the foosball table.
No.
Anyway, well, that's cool. Okay. Well, and so you're back to reality, back at work.
Yep. Just another day.
Okay. Let's see. For me, my daughter's birthday is the 31st of December, New Year's Eve, but I did not spend it with her because she and her mom left that morning, or actually midday, to this is interesting. She's going to Charlotte. Actually, she's leaving on a flight, like somewhere probably right around now, to Austria or Germany, leaving out of Charlotte. And I said, well, so when we were at the dinner to celebrate her birthday, the day before her birthday, on the 30th, at a very nice tapas restaurant in Midtown Atlanta, I said, so why are you guys leaving tomorrow when the flight doesn't leave until Wednesday? And she goes, oh, well, we're going to go to Hilton Head Island on the way to Charlotte. And I thought, I've driven
Have
to
they
Charlotte
looked
a
at a
lot.
map?
She go, well, it's on the way. And I go, no, it's not on the way. I mean, she is geographically challenged, apparently. I think, how many times have you driven to Elon, which goes past Charlotte? How many times have you seen Hilton Head Island on the way?
There's just a sign. It's like,
Yeah,
small
it's
detour.
it's like a big giant triangle, basically. They went from Atlanta all the way down to Hilton Head, she and her mom. Yeah, she wanted to spend her birthday at the beach. So that's what
There
they
you
did. And then they went from Hilton Head Island to Charlotte. And
I bet they had
hopefully
nice weather for it, though. Maybe a little rain here and there, but
Mhm.
the temperatures were warm.
Yeah, it's not a bad time of year to go, I guess. So, so I've been at home since our last show, and except that I left on January 1st, yesterday, for this trip. It's a 4-day trip, pretty nice trip. 1 leg, 2 legs, 2 legs, 1 leg. And I was in Memphis yesterday, and the first officer and I went to the Blue City Cafe on Beale Street and had a nice meal. And tomorrow I'm going to be flying into Newark, and we're laying over, since it's a long enough layover, in Manhattan at the Sheraton Times Square Hotel. And we are going to have like a little mini meetup there. So if you're listening to the show live right now, and I apologize if you're now hearing about this several days after this little meetup that we're going to have tomorrow, Thursday, the 3rd of January, somewhere near the Times Square area at some establishment that probably has really good beer. So, so far, looks like Dave, Abby, and Tanya are going to be there. Probably Phil as well. And who else? I think we need to put that on Slack. I'm not sure if it's on there or not. So if you're listening, go ahead and put the meetup there on Slack, or maybe I can do it later. But hopefully I'll get to see some APGers in Manhattan tomorrow. And
Nice.
and then 1 leg back from Newark on Friday morning. And that's it. You're all caught up.
I'm wondering if the beer authority might not be a good place to go to.
The what? The beer authority?
Authority.
Yeah, we've been there before,
in New
right?
York. Yeah, we have. It's not that far from Times Square.
Yeah,
just a suggestion.
Yep, that was one of the places that David Abbey had suggested, and Tanya as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think they actually suggested another place. Let me see if I can find the exchange that we had. I've never heard of it before. Hang on while I vamp a little bit. Let's see. Looks like a place called Places and Names at
interesting.
159th, 159 West and 54th. 159 West. That sounds like really far away from where I'm staying, doesn't it?
154 West?
159 West
Oh,
and
159
54th
West.
Street. 54th is about where we are, but I don't know where 159 West is.
Wow,
But I have a feeling it's somewhere near.
They don't
where
go
I'm
too far east-west, do they? It's not. It's a long, thin island.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that must be
it's
a
good exercise for you.
typo or something. Anyway.
Oh wait, one more time. 159 West.
159 West 54th Street, or just do a search for faces and names. And looks like that we're shooting for about 6:15 p.m. tomorrow night,
No, that's like
or 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Is that pretty close?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that's the plan right now. But make sure that you check out Slack. I'll try to remember to put a tweet out or a Facebook post. And Dana is trying to communicate with us. What's the van driver is refusing to leave the airport because he's waiting on one more crew member that does not exist.
the ghost crew member.
Yeah. The good news is that in San Antonio, it doesn't take long to get from the airport to where we stay. So hopefully Dana will be able to join us before the end of our show. I'm sure he will.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, and now speaking of Facebook, now you know how I feel about Facebook, but I have been trying to re-engage myself on Facebook, and Facebook has been trying to help me do that by creating another identity for me. So I know that and it's my fault really, because I was receiving all these requests for friends, and so I'm going, okay, what is it? Use accept,
accept,
and then or confirm or whatever the terminology is, and then I went to the website and I went, wait a minute. This is not my Facebook identity. So here's the deal. You're supposed to use your real name on Facebook, right? You're not allowed to use a name like Captain Jeff. Well, I've been doing it ever since I've been part of Facebook. My first name is Captain and my last name is Jeff. Not really. And
it's a strange name, but I mean, we'll go along with it.
Yeah.
Not
and
sure what
nobody
your parents were
complained.
thinking.
I figured
Captain. They just knew that someday you're going to be an airline captain.
Yeah, they should have known. Anyway, so I've been using that identity for my personal Facebook page for years and years. And I guess somebody decided, well, here's this guy that is on the Airline Pilot, because we have an Airline Pilot Guide page. And so, but this guy's name's Jeff Nielsen. So let's create an identity for him. So I don't know. Maybe
you were able to log into both accounts?
Yeah, I can log into both accounts.
That's weird.
That is weird.
In fact,
that's really weird.
There's a menu item on the Facebook page.
Are you sure you didn't just create both of the accounts at some point?
No, I did not create both of those accounts. I have not seen the Jeff Nielsen account ever until about 2 or 3 months ago. So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I was saying amazing. Are you certain it's not a spoof account that someone else has generated in your name?
But how would he be able to, excuse me, wow. How would he be able to log into it?
I don't know. I'm not into that much detail in Facebook.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Maybe I did something to cause it to happen. But anyway, so I have two accounts, two IDs, personal IDs. I have Jeff Nielsen and Captain Jeff, and I don't know what to do.
Pick one.
Pick one.
Deactivate the other. Otherwise, you had this split personality thing going on, which.
Since most of the people, I mean, I have a huge number of friends on Captain Jeff because I've been on that for the longest time. That's the one I'll choose. So if you happen to have me as your friend on Facebook on the Jeff Nielsen one, don't freak out when you see that I've deactivated that account, because I can't do both. It's hard enough for me to do one, actually. But anyway, so I just thought I'd throw that out there. If you've received, a request from Jeff Nielsen to be be your friend and all that kind of stuff, just disregard that. And then what's going to happen? I know what's going to happen. After I do that and deactivate it, and then they're going to, well, you can't have an account named Captain Jeff because that's not a real name. And then they're going to deactivate that one.
There's your Facebook problems all solved.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that might be the best solution to everything. Anyway, and what else was I going to talk about? Oh, I talked about the Catholic Pilot RSS feed. I think I figured out a way to get that fixed. So if you're one of those 61 people that are subscribed via the Catholic Pilot RSS feed, it should be working. You should be getting the last 5 shows that were on there before. And but I still want to kind of end that feed, so I only have to concentrate on one feed every week. So I'm going to create some kind of a special little podcast for those that are getting the Catholic Pilot feed, and then tell them to, go to the APG feed.
Go to hell.
Well, I'm not going to tell them that. That would not be, especially on the
That would not be in the spirit of the podcast.
Oh, just go to
Name of-
purgatory then.
There you go. Okay, which is a good thing, because if you're going to purgatory, you will end up in heaven eventually.
Oh, there you go. Might just take a while.
Yeah, it might take a while. That's true. It's all relative. And you know what else might take a while? This darn introduction segment.
Yeah. Especially when Dana joins in half an hour.
I feel like he's going to have some things to say.
Yeah. Well, I'm
About
just
how
going to
his
tell
day
him,
is
I'm
going.
sorry, you're just going to have to catch up with us later.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
No.
No.
Oh, really? All right. Let's then head over to the coffee fund. What do you think?
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea.
I love the APG community.
Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. That is the Jeff Smith singing Java Jive. And the reason why he's singing the Java Jive is because we're going to talk about the coffee fund. Coffee, Java, get it? So the coffee fund is your way to support the show financially, if you have the resources to do so. And since the last episode, we have a few contributors to the Classic Fund. They would be Stephen Abreu, Alistair Kerr, Michael Smith, Mark Grotchall, and Paul Rake, or Rack, R-A-A-K. And that's one way you can contribute to the fund. And the other way is to become a patron of the show via patreon.com. And since the last show, we have a new executive producer. Yay, Barb Benson. Welcome, Barb. Thanks for joining the patrons over at Patreon. And if you are interested, dear listener, to become part of the Coffee Fund and listen to the crew logs that we put out periodically. In fact, put out one just minutes before we started recording today's episode. Captain Nick put one together in Miami. So if you're interested in joining the fund or the cadre, please head over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee.
Stand by for news.
Okay, the first item in our news folder is ground worker involuntarily activated the inflatable emergency slide of an Aeromexico Dreamliner. And really, the article doesn't give a lot of information. It just shows has a link to this YouTube video, I guess. And it shows a catering truck, a Gate Gourmet truck, up against the forward, what would that be? The R1 door, the right forward door, which is usually the door that the caterers use for galley access at the front of the airplane. And a guy kind of peers into the window and probably knocks. I can't tell exactly from the video. And the door comes open, but he does not activate the door. So I don't think it was the caterer's fault, because I don't think he did anything to open that door. Somebody inside must have seen that the catering truck was there, and instead of making sure that the door was disarmed, they opened it anyway, and the slide comes out, and in kind of an unusual fashion. I don't know. It doesn't look like it extended or inflated the way it's supposed to. Perhaps because of the catering truck being right there.
It was either that or I think person who did it might have realized what they do and desperately hung on to the door to try and, because when you activate a door in this situation, it's armed. There's a power assist bottle which will help throw the door open. So normally the door is a pretty heavy piece of kit. Pull the lever down, you've got to push it forward and then swing it outwards, and it's weighty and takes a bit of effort, and it takes a little while. But of course, in emergency, you don't want to have that delay. So there's a power assist bottle which helps throw the door open, and it bangs on the stops, and then the slide booms out. But I suspect if this worker realized what was happening, hung on to dear life to the door, he might have kept it closed enough for the slide to jam up.
Yeah, when I was watching this, I'm thinking this is not going to turn out well because those things are really powerful, and I thought that the caterer might get killed.
Well, that's the real danger of having people on the inside open doors, particularly ones who aren't well trained. So I don't know about your company. And our company, we always, whenever possible, get the person on the outside to open the door, because normally the door will disarm itself automatically. Certainly in Airbuses they do. So if the person on the outside pulls the lever, the door will automatically disarm, and there's no chance of them being hit in the face by the door or the slide.
Well,
I can't get the video to play. Oh well.
Well, yeah.
I'll have to watch it later.
You'll see it. I think that, and I think that if it were a flight attendant inside the aircraft, seeing the caterers there, that they probably would have made sure to ensure that the door was not armed. And so I'm thinking, I wonder if it was maybe aircraft cleaners or something like that were inside that opened it.
Well, I mean, what I don't understand is that as you approach the gate, the captain, I don't know about your SOPs, but in our company, the captain instructs the cabin crew to disarm the doors. All the doors are disarmed, pins are put in, and the doors are safe now to operate until they're armed again once you've pushed back for your next flight. So someone would have to have either forgotten, which is really bad news, or accidentally or physically armed it prior to opening it. Why would you do that?
I don't know. At my company, when I turn off the seatbelt light when we arrive in our, the final resting place of the flight.
Final resting place.
The final resting place at the terminal.
Well,
terminal resting place.
The language is not very good. Anyway,
it's all in word choice, isn't it?
So we at our parking spot, and we don't expect to move the airplane any further. I hit the seatbelt light off, and then the lead flight attendant will get on the PA and say, "Flight attendants, prepare the doors or disarm the doors."
Disarm and cross check or something like that. Yeah.
And they make sure that they're all disarmed. Yes. I don't actually instruct. I guess I sort of instruct them by turning off the seatbelt light. That's the signal for us. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of an odd situation.
Definitely.
And I'm actually surprised that we were able to talk about it for this long.
So Mike, actually, because it actually happens very frequently. I mean, I'm sure almost every day, somewhere in the world, someone will blow a slide by accident. I mean, it's just so common, despite all the training and all the precautions.
And it's just one of those things that even though everyone knows, everyone who's operating the doors should know, you can still miss it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. The second item we have is this article, A Sharp Rise in Air Crash Deaths in 2018. So you remember last year about this time, we were talking about the record.
It was so safe. Yeah.
Nobody died in a major aircraft or a major airline aircraft incident in all of 2017, I believe. And didn't do so well in 2018. I guess they're making up for the great 2017.
Yes, but over time, I mean, there's a nice graph in here that shows a continual downward trend, and there's kind of these little spikes. But overall, it's it's going down. So
yeah, it's still safe.
Yeah,
just not quite as safe this past year as the year before. What do they say? 556 fatalities, I believe, in 2017. Compared with 44 in 2017. Oh, I thought there were 0 in 2017. 17. So
I guess it depends on what
that was
they're
a mistake.
counting, because there were a couple of
First civilian.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I think I was talking over you because I couldn't hear you. No, I guess it just depends on what they're counting as an airliner.
Okay.
You know, whether it was for a major airline or if it was corporate stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think there was some caveat to that zero thing last year, whether it was jet airliners or what it was. But yeah.
Well, it's still, I think, if not the safest form of transportation, it's awfully close to being the safest. You know, as we always say in our business, the most dangerous part of going out on a trip for Nick and I is getting from our home to the airport and from the airport to the hotel, and you know, all that kind of surface transportation in our vans and cars, and you know, that's where really the bad statistics come into play as far as, you know, getting injured or killed. The actual flying on the airplane part is pretty darn safe.
It is. It's interesting to see that the major statistics, the major loss of life, were caused by loss of control accidents. So that's, I guess, going to be the focus for future flight safety training. Will be to try and reduce that, because you know,
Well,
you
sure. I
always
mean,
try.
just the aircraft themselves are, you know, built so well, designed so well, systems are safe. So it comes down to more of the
Yeah,
loss of
they
control
do
type
say it
issues.
can be caused by mechanical failure, but as we've seen, human action plays a big part in this.
Right.
So, I mean, as much as we can, we try and train that human element out, but to is human, so that's always going to be very hard. Mechanical failures have actually been very rare, generally speaking. Modern technology and manufacture has ensured that those statistics are usually very small. Although, of course, we've seen a couple of accidents which may go down to a mechanical system on the aircraft that pilots were poorly briefed about, or whatever. We've yet to find out for sure. And of course, environmental disturbances. They're going to cause a loss of control. So only a certain number of those you can train for, or train out of the statistics, as it were.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you know, it may have started as a mechanical issue that maybe 99 out of 100 air crews would have, you know, handled it
Or if there
properly.
was, you know, if it was a system they were more familiar with or had more intensive training on, perhaps more frequent training.
But so basically the bottom line, yep, human error usually involves, you know, not recovering from whatever the situation is properly, or handling the situation properly.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why I say that is because a lot of people say, well, see, if you take the humans out of the machines, then we'll have a 100% safety record. And as you know,
No.
how we feel about that here,
Yes.
don't think so. No.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
if
to a degree, as long as you give the humans sufficient information. So, I mean, EGPWS, the system that stops us accidentally flying into ground terrain or making a major mistake during an approach, has saved many, many lives. So we can say there's one level of automation or one system that works well because it interacts well with the pilots. They understand the situation when one of those warnings goes off, and they instinctively react in a very positive manner to recover the aircraft. So that's, for example, one that works extremely well. It's the ones that are more insidious and things that aren't well understood that cause a lot of problems.
Very true. Very true. I must point out that we have a live chat room going on as we record these shows using the YouTube live streaming platform. We have a bunch of great folks. Well, there's some great folks. Well, we have some people watching the show in the chat room. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I love you. You are all great. But Armando says, because Nick is in Miami, does that make him Miami Nick?
Oh, very good. Ha, 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 ha. Oh, Armando, you're such a wit.
Yes, you are. Okay. Let's continue then with item C. And let's see. I need to pull up something on the iPad. And bear with me, please. Okay. And let's see. Okay. An inquiry reveals blunders behind the 777 freighter's 100-ton weight error. And investigators of the BEA,
Bureau d'enquête et d'analyse.
I couldn't have said it better myself. They have disclosed that a 100-ton weight error that led to the tail strike protection mechanism to activate on an Air France Boeing 777 freighter, spurring the crew to command full takeoff thrust. It said that the takeoff parameters for the aircraft, Foxtrot Golf Uniform Oscar Charlie, have been calculated using a weight of 243 tons rather than the actual figure of 343 tons, says the French investigation authority again.
Bureau d'enquête et d'analyse.
And in its findings from a 22nd of May 2015 incident. So that was a few years back. This gross error meant that the calculated rotation speed of 152 knots with flap position 5 was far below the 175 knot and flap 15 setting required. 5 seconds after the 777 freighter rotated at 154 knots from runway 26 right at Paris's Charles de Gaulle, its tail strike protection system activated. The system used its maximum authority to stabilize the aircraft's pitch at 9 degrees. The crew commanded maximum thrust some 8 seconds after the protection system engaged, after the aircraft had managed to climb to 16 feet. It was traveling at 189 knots. The BEA says the 777 freighter passed the opposite direction threshold at a height of 172 feet. There was no stall alarm, and the stick shaker did not activate. 4 cockpit crew had been on board the aircraft, which was bound for Mexico City. As it reached 20,000 feet, one of the supplementary pilots took over from the first officer who had been flying, and I guess that first officer had been startled by the incident. While the cockpit voice recording was unavailable to the inquiry, the investigators state that the crew discussed returning to the airport, but ultimately decided to proceed with the flight. So it goes on to talk about, in this report, how the wrong data was entered into their onboard performance tool, part of their electronic flight bag, and the fact that the first officer entered the 100-ton lighter weight than was reality, and the captain had determined the takeoff weight was 343 tons, but for some reason he also entered 243 into the tool, and they're not sure if the verbalization of that 243-ton figure was something that just got into the captain's head and he entered the wrong. I don't know. It just kind of seems odd how this error was made, because obviously at least one, perhaps more, of the pilots knew that that 243-ton figure was off, but nobody did anything about it. So
it does seem odd. I don't know about you, Jeff, but for us, when those figures go in, it's a pretty busy time. It's in the last probably 10 minutes of flight. And it's just as you're trying to, flight preparation. It's just as you're trying to tie all those loose ends together of getting the last passengers on, getting the doors closed, getting your PA out of the way. There's an awful lot going on in that last 10 minutes, but these figures are so vital that they really ought to be encapsulated into a moment of absolute calm and quiet on the flight deck, just to absolutely ensure that they go in correctly, because there's often 2 or 3 extra people on the flight deck all trying to get things signed and done. And it does worry me quite often when I'm trying to get these figures done that both of us are almost trying to do 2 or 3 things at once while these numbers go in. Now, on a freighter, it would be different. You would expect them to be relatively quiet because they haven't got all the passengers, they haven't got all the cabin attendants, they haven't got a TCO, all hassling, trying to ensure an on-time departure. But even so, it's obvious that without being very, very disciplined about putting these numbers in and double checking them every time and taking care about it, that mistakes get made.
Yeah.
And it's easy. I mean, I spend a lot of my day typing and entering things manually that way, and it's easy to make a typo. And unless you're really on guard for, um, oh, this is what I was going to say about the type of notes that I do, not just typing, but a lot of times using voice recognition. So I'm sure this doesn't apply to this, but just where I notice errors, if you're using a voice recognition system to input information and it mishears you, it substitutes a word that's a real word. So when you know what you've said or what you meant to do, and you go back and you read through it to look for errors, it's very easy to read over those things because your brain already knows what the expected information was. So in this case, I don't know, it sounds like there was some other discrepancies there, but I could easily see where if you entered something incorrectly just as a typo, but your brain knew what the right information was supposed to be, unless you're really sitting there and counting through the numbers, it could be missed.
Yeah, good point. The other thing that is a little concern to me was this one sentence. The computed configuration of the aircraft surprised one of the supplementary pilots, says the BEA, but he did not air his doubts. It's like,
Yeah, that's kind of concerning.
come on, if you
That's very concerning.
think that something is not right, then why would you be hesitant to say, wait, are you sure that figure is right? What did you say? But
Yeah, I know it's sad because we should all, despite the embarrassment it might cause you, if the guys turn around and say, no, you're wrong, this is right. You go, okay, well, that's fair enough. I wasn't certain. That causes embarrassment. So some people might be a little reluctant to come forward when they think they see an error, but the two guys actually doing the job, appear to have been perfectly happy with it. And you think, well, God, could I be the one wrong? They're both happy, so perhaps not. But you're right. You should always pipe up if you think something's been done wrong.
I think that's one of the important things that, as a captain, especially, you set the tone and you make sure that all your crew members understand that, hey, if there's something that I'm doing that's wrong, please tell me. There's a saying that we
It's
have.
much easier to fix something before it happens.
Exactly. Or it's not a mistake until we both make the mistake, or all of us make the mistake.
Right.
So pipe up, and just having that kind of an open atmosphere, like, hey, you're not going to hurt. I don't have thin skin. If there's something that I'm doing that's wrong, please tell us, because this is a business where mistakes can lead to tragedies, big tragedies.
Absolutely.
In this case, the airplane, the protection system for tail strike and everything else, kind of looks like they, took care of them. Although it still was not a perfectly safe operation using these low speeds and flap settings.
No, it wasn't. But having said that, they got off to 172 feet by the end of the runway. Now, you can, on a balanced field performance figure, that can be as low as 35 feet in a dry runway and 15 feet on a wet runway. So 172 feet looks like they actually had performance in hand. So, that's fine. But the fact is, I think that they could have had a major tail strike doing it if it hadn't been for this protection system built into the aircraft.
Right. And, we've covered a lot of these stories. In fact, when I was looking at this in the news folder, I'm thinking, oh, this must be the one, what was it? The Israeli LL.
Yeah, didn't we just have one?
That's
just
exactly
recently?
what I thought.
Yes. And then I went, oh, no, this is another one.
different.
I don't even remember talking about this one.
Yeah.
Actually.
So we're
And
picking up on a trend here for these figures to go in incorrectly.
Yep.
And, we're covering a lot of these incidents, which
Weight
is
calculations and distance calculations are off and things like that.
Yep.
So
people entering the runway at the wrong point, consuming more runway than they expected, all of which leads to these performance errors.
I would say that loss of control is the number one concern out there, but I think that these performance data blunders are probably either number two or very close to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Potential accidents.
So if I was an airline pilot listening to this, that would be two areas I would be paying particular attention to.
Yes.
Good job I'm not. Oh, hang on.
What's that?
are you listening to anything we're saying, Nick?
No,
Okay.
I
Don't
never
worry.
do. But I'll listen to it in a few days' time. So make sure you don't edit that bit out.
Looks like this is going to be one of those shows where I definitely use your local recordings, because I don't know how I'm coming through, but you guys are kind of stuttering quite a bit. It's probably the Wi-Fi here at the hotel that I'm staying. But
Okay.
whatever. Okay. Moving on to item D. Major fire to delay Airbus production. Premium Aerotech, a subsidiary of Airbus based in Augsburg, Germany, was left without their plant on Friday night when a fire broke out, causing tens millions of euros worth of building and equipment damage. Preliminary reports from witnesses and media indicate the fire initiated in a surface treatment area before rapidly spreading to nearby goods. At the time, no one was in the building, leaving no injuries behind. However, dozens of firefighters spent the night in the heat, battling the blaze until it was under control. Investigations are underway to see what caused the fire, especially focusing on workplace safety and conditions, as well as any intentional acts. As a consequence of the fire, Airbus has been left in a difficult position as they state virtually all Airbus models will now be delayed. And that cannot be good news for Airbus. With Premium Aerotech being a tier 1 supplier for Airbus, the company has no choice but to accept the delays and scramble their backup plans into place. So anyway, there's more information in the article, which we'll have in the show notes. Have you heard anything about this, Nick, from...
No, it's all news to me. We've got A350s that will be coming into our company over the next, the next few months. Throughout the next couple of years, we've got a bunch of them. So, I mean, we've been having enough problems with the bin liner. I'm just hoping that the 350s that we've got on order aren't delayed too much because, a company that makes a lot of plans based on the arrival of aircraft. And it really does mess things around when you get an unexpected delay like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully they'll get their backup plans going as quickly as possible, and there won't be too large of an interruption with the production of Airbuses out there. But
it seems to be affecting a whole bunch. Even the Eurofighter Typhoon's been delayed because of it. This must have been a really important component manufacturer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's not good news. And this is not good news, in my opinion. Okay, so, we hear stories all the time where there's an established community, and then somebody comes up with this idea to build a major international airport right in the middle of all these neighborhoods.
I mean, where did this airport come from?
Right. Who do they think they are?
Overnight, sprung
Wait
up
a
out of...
minute. Wait a minute. Did I get that wrong? I got that backwards, I think.
Oh, you mean the airport was there first?
Yeah. And usually
And
it's
then
quite a ways from the city center.
Built a
and then
subdivision somewhere nearby.
And then what do we have? We have complaints, noise complaints.
No.
We have some people that listen to our show that are very familiar with this whole noise complaint business.
Community?
Yeah, community.
Community.
Yeah. So this guy, a San Diego man, oh, bless him, has created a noise button that users can press to file a complaint about airplane noise. So, and it turns out that most of the noise complaints are only, what's this? Why am I getting a warning on my phone? Your Apple ID is being used to sign in to a MacBook Pro near Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay.
I've signed into your...
That's my daughter trying to sign in. I don't know why I'm getting this notification all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, I thought like one of my Mac
I
was trying to sign
immediately
into your
Steph is cloning your phone account.
I know. I'm like, I was in the middle of setting up a new Facebook account for Jeff, but I've been caught red-handed here.
Now I understand what's happening. Okay.
Oops.
I'm trying to be as open and transparent as I can, and what do I get for that? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm sorry, I'm going to take a little pause here because I'm sure my daughter is waiting for me to send her this code. And she'll understand when all of a sudden I send this code to her, what's happening, I think. I do this actually quite often with my kids.
It's because you love them.
Yes, because I love them. That's why. And there we go. So sorry for the interruption. So this man, oh no, where was I? I was talking about the fact that, noise complaints, from what I understand, are usually put in or filed from a very relatively small number of people, like lots and lots of noise complaints, but just a handful of people, right?
Like people
yeah.
making multiple complaints in
Yeah,
one day
that's,
type of a
that's
thing.
certainly what Adam has told us in the past. Yeah.
And
So
other
now
folks with
this San Diego man has created a button that makes it even easier for these people to file noise complaints. And I think I just heard a voice in the background here. Let me pull up the window where our hangout is, and I see a fine-looking gentleman in a very nice hat, and his name is Captain Dana. Hello, Dana. Welcome. But
Bit premature there.
he is apparently, yeah. He's not muted from what I can tell.
He's struck dumb.
But as soon as he figures out his sound issues, we'll hear from, or his audio issues. We'll hear from Dana. So
I noticed that these noise things, it costs you $5 every time you press the button there. The bloke who's invented it, and you can.
well,
only do
he's
it
a smart guy then. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I think that's the main reason for it. He's thought, how can I make money out of these people who want to compete?
So
continually
do you all
complain.
you all have Amazon, obviously, in the UK and Europe, and do you also have access to these little thing they call dash buttons? I think that you can like press to order, and when you press it for toilet paper or press it for paper towels or whatever.
I'm sure we can. I'm not aware of.
I don't have any myself, but yeah, I know of these things available, and looks like this guy has basically engineered these devices to send in these complaints.
The complaints are actually getting sent to the airport somehow,
I think so.
or are they just like disappearing into the ether?
They don't go.
I mean, how do you have any assurance that your complaint made it to the intended destination?
Know, but in this article, they talk about complaints have surged. Let's see, where was this? At Baltimore Washington International Marshall Airport. Complaints have surged to 17,228 in August from 2,692 the previous month. So what is that? That's a factor of at least 5 or 6 more. And they think that 90% of the complaints come through third-party apps, like this app is called Air Noise.
Air Noise, yep.
Yeah. So I think that, it's just the same handful of people that are sending these complaints in now are just sending a lot more. And these guys
I love some of these
money.
quotes. These quotes are great.
Oh,
it felt so good. It's highly, highly therapeutic. Makes you feel like you can make a difference.
Yeah.
Really?
So they're getting a kick every time they press the button. Makes them feel good. It's just wrecking the whole idea, the whole concept of noise complaints.
Mm-hmm.
There's one couple that made 5,000 complaints in 4 months.
There you go.
Just to O'Hare.
I mean,
I slept at the airport last night at O'Hare. I did not hear a single aircraft all night long. These people must be living in like houses made of tinfoil or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah.
Are they whiners?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Dana.
Or wieners, you call them in America, don't you?
Wieners.
Both wieners and whiners.
Whiners.
Yeah. Hi, Dana.
Weinberg. Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
How are
Can
you?
you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Yeah.
That's why we're talking to you.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody. And the only one at home is Steph, actually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And just barely. This morning or yesterday, I was not.
That's
here,
right.
but-
Yeah. You just got back from a trip. So Dana, tell us where you are and what you're up to.
Well, I'm in San Antonio, Texas. Just arrived. Terrible weather in San Antonio. Not low sailings, but we had coming in from Atlanta a report of severe turbulence just at a VOR called Industry, which is right abeam the arrival course into San Antonio. I'm forgetting the exact fix. It's a beam, but IUU is the identifier. Industry. I can't remember.
Industry is like just a little bit to the east
North
of Houston, I believe. Northeast of Houston.
And I think it's actually west.
Oh.
Because it's between San Antonio and Houston. It was after.
Okay.
So, anyways, it's on the arrival into a Braun arrival into San Antonio, and so there was a severe report, and we were coming down through 18,000 and descending. We started to pick up what I would describe as continuous moderate. I had fortunately sat my flight attendants down in advance, and
Excellent.
I didn't have any real reports. Even our advanced technology that we have in the flight deck wasn't really depicting anything. It was just a gut feeling. And so that Severe actually was initially reported that it was a 737, which of course has some credibility. And then I said, at least that's what the controller said. I said, what type of aircraft was that? He looked at it again. Oh, it was a Citation.
Oh,
I said, okay, well, let's have a little more perspective on that. Then we didn't experience that severe turbulence. We got, I would call, moderate. And of course, the fact of the matter is I flew the Citation, so I know what the characteristics of the aircraft are. And when they reported severe, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt, although that's not the proper thing to say, but it's comparing a big bird compared to a small bird, and probably an owner operator or similar. But yeah, the weather was weather earlier today. Flew first leg out to New Orleans, and I had to do an actual Cat 2 with an Autoland. And I wanted to stick my head between my somewhere that nobody could see me, because the landing was terrible. I mean, at 50 feet, it just flared and cut the power, and I was like, "Oh, this is not going to be good.
Not going to be good.
This is not going to be good." And you really, I mean, I was gonna click it off, but it was still descending towards the runway. I said, I'm just gonna let it go. And yeah, it touched down, and it was boom.
Because we're
make that appointment with your chiropractor. Yeah, like
we're in a rock, between a rock and a hard place with that situation, because if you're using Autoland procedures, it's either going to land via Autoland or it's going to be a go around. You're not really, allowed to click it off and land it manually.
Nope. Not at all.
That's the way our SOP is at Acme, unfortunately. So
Neville says 50, 10.
Yeah. So when I used to fly an airplane that the flight engineer was calling out the 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, I always briefed him and said, just don't call out those numbers too fast, okay? Obviously, that has nothing to do. Well,
that's very good. I love that.
I think it's funny.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, really. So that's when the Autoland crashes the airplane, that's when I make a PA and say, I did not do that. That was the Autoland. But then everybody goes, yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Sure.
right.
Navy
Yeah,
pilot.
we
blame
believe
it on
it.
that.
Yeah. What is it, Steph?
Navy pilot.
Oh, no. I was thinking, methinks you doth protest too much or something.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, well, good. I'm glad that you're all still in one piece, Dana.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing. And of course, we were late coming into San Antonio because, they pulled the aircraft up from the hangar.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah, it's always
ready to go when they pull it from the hangar into the gate.
Yeah, it was really close to being ready to go back to the hangar because it was such a mess. So that took about a good 20 minutes. The flight was at 2:04. The aircraft didn't show up at the gate until about 1:30-ish, roughly. And then by the time they cleaned it, catered it, we didn't even start boarding until about 5 minutes of 2.
Mm-hmm.
So then we were payload. One of the first times I've seen this on the Mad Dog. Payload optimized. It has happened in the past, of course, but it's not a very common occurrence, especially on it's not an overly long leg. But we were filed at flight level 260, so obviously we're going to burn more fuel down low because of the turbulence. And then we were also had to have an alternate because the weather here in San Antonio was terrible. So we had we took off with the 32.5, I think it was 32,500 pounds of fuel, which is a very large amount. So we had to actually leave people behind. I decided to delay the flight just a couple of minutes just to see if we can't get any more passengers on once we had all the cargo numbers. And fortunately, I did. Fortunately, I did that because I was able to get 2 more people on. Still left with 5 empty seats. So did everything I could possibly do, and I feel bad, but it is what it is.
Yeah, sometimes conditions just make it such that you can't do exactly everything you want to do.
And then I had a real chatty 350 FO Very proud of his airplane. Airbus 350 FO.
On your jump seat.
My jump seat.
Yeah.
And he just liked to chat the whole way.
Who
The entire
wouldn't?
time.
He's got a lot to talk about. That's a lovely airplane.
Well, never mind.
So that's what's going on in my world.
All right. Excellent.
And I'll be in
So,
Columbus tomorrow night. And so I get a little meetup coming
good,
tomorrow night. Yep.
Columbus, Ohio. Okay. So, well, I hope that you have a good time at the meetup. I'm going to have a little meetup in New York tomorrow. So
Nice.
we'll have to compare notes next week.
Yeah, well, mine's with just right now. It's James and my FO.
Okay.
So Jennifer is not available, and I put a notice out on Slack. I haven't had a chance to tweet, but it doesn't appear as though anybody's responded to that. So, oh well.
Now, folks, you need to be on Slack. Pay attention at the end of the show when Hillel tells you how you become part of the Slack team, and then you can learn about these meetups that we have occasionally here and there. And anyway, okay. So, Dana, we started without you, obviously, and we just finished the news segment, and now we're about to head over to the feedback. Are you ready to join us?
I am indeed.
Okay, let's do it.
Captain, incoming message.
You okay there, sir?
That wasn't what I was expecting to
Bit
hear
of
after.
indigestion?
Usually just, okay, here we go.
I'll fix it in post.
Yeah, have a sip there.
Have another
Is this a
drink of
beverage
wine.
break? Are we taking a
Yes.
Oh,
Everybody-
which reminds me, I watched Kelly's Heroes over the Christmas period. You familiar with that movie?
Mm-mm.
No.
Oh, it's the one where Clint Eastwood, he's a U.S. Soldier, and they go behind German enemy lines with a oddball in his tank to raid a bank that's full of German looted gold. You don't Kelly's Heroes. So funny.
Kelly's Heroes, huh?
Yeah, because the tank commander, oddball, and I'm desperately trying to think of the actor's name. He just is so laid back, absolutely brilliant. And all he does is drink wine and eat cheese. So you were sitting there drinking wine. That movie just popped into my head.
That. Speaking of, I'm drinking
Eastwood?
wine, and well, Clint Eastwood.
Nick?
I don't
Sorry,
think that was
say
the
again?
one who was.
Was
it
it-
wasn't Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood?
It was somebody else's character.
John Rickles?
No, I think it was Clint Eastwood. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I have some cheese.
Donald
and,
Sutherland, thank you very much indeed, was the tank commander.
there you go.
Ah,
Thanks, Frank. Well done, sir. You've got a good memory.
I was
So I
just
knew I
reading through
wasn't
the
gonna be
cast
able
on Wikipedia. So-
I knew I
got
wouldn't be able to go out after we finish the show because I have a very early morning, so I got some nice a baguette of bread.
Ooh.
Yeah,
A
make me
baguette
hungry.
of bread.
Okay,
I haven't had anything to eat, and I don't have time to eat.
and
I mean,
some
Oh,
smoked provolone
Charcuterie?
oh, very
Yes.
nice.
and
And a bottle of red
charcuterie.
wine.
Yes.
And poor
No.
Dana, poor Dana won't even have time to have a whiskey, and he'll have to go to bed.
yeah, not even time to eat any food, really. By
Oh,
the time we're done
Well-
with the show.
Maybe it's your fasting day.
It was, but it's time to break it for dinner, but it's not going to happen. So I'll just have to make it 2 days in a row.
Oh, wow.
Mine does blood
Yeah.
sugars.
This guy, well, my blood sugar is actually fantastic, but this guy that picked us up from the airport refused to leave until we got a third crew member. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm not flying the L1011 or 727.
Yeah, where's your flight engineer?
And where's my flight engineer? And there was nobody. We were the last people off the aircraft because I like to wait until all my passengers are off. Now that I'm captain,
As you should.
and I do.
And,
And so we had nobody left on the airplane, and went down there. We were waiting for one more crew member. I said, "Yeah, there are 3 deadheading flight attendants going to a different hotel. Nobody else." Yeah, well, we gotta wait. We gotta wait 10 minutes for him. I said, "No, you don't." Yeah, my boss tells me we gotta wait. Oh man,
Well, let me talk to your boss.
Yeah, you're cutting into my time here, pal.
Yeah.
And
You
yeah,
don't
he
understand.
wouldn't put the boss on the phone. So then I
He
called the
wasn't an
company.
American, was he?
Yeah, I think he flew for American.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You see.
It's very inconvenient. So, but anyways, so that's why there's no food.
I'm sorry, Dana.
Oh.
Hey, if you want
I
to go
would-
and get something to eat, go ahead. It's more important than doing
Hey,
this
come
thing.
down to Miami, mate. I've got plenty of food down
I
here.
was gonna say there's food here.
Perfect. I'll be on my way, and I am not
Excellent.
complaining
Excellent.
because I'd much.
You know where
rather
you
be
left
here
the
with you
aircraft,
guys.
right? Is it still there? Keys in the ignition still?
Yeah, because you still have the keys, right?
I sure do, because
Good man.
it's required.
Yeah.
No, I am not complaining. I'd much rather be here with you guys. I still have my work pants on. But,
Awesome. Okay, you guys ready?
This first one's for Nick, right? I'm gonna go get a beverage,
Yep.
which I was going
Okay.
to while we were shooting the breeze there.
Be
and then I
quick.
just never
I don't
did.
speak very much.
Oh, good grief.
jeez.
Okay, let's start with the first item in our feedback folder, which is a question for Nick. This is from JJ Pittsburgh. Really, JJ? That's really your name? I don't know. Anyway, he says, hi. Perhaps Captain Nick can provide an answer to this. We doubt it. I was looking at a trip to visit my friend in Estonia, and it includes a flight from JFK to SVO in Moscow. I've been tracking the flight daily, and sometimes the route goes further north and crosses land. Sometimes it goes directly east over water. Is this a captain's preference due to weather or other factors? I was curious why the deviation in routes day to day. Thanks for your time. I now have APG syndrome. Sorry to hear that, JJ, but you're not the only one out there that suffers from this syndrome. And we have covered this, but maybe it's about time that we talk about it again because we're getting new listeners every day. Of course, if you're suffering from the APG syndrome, eventually you'll hear us talk about this, but we're going to spare the suspense, and Captain Nick is going to tell you why these routes change day to day.
Yeah. Hi there, JJ. Now, are you sure you're not the JJ who's one of my pilot managers? I just want to make, all right. If you are, just now turn off. I don't want you hearing this. So you're quite right. It's captain's preference. You know, we just fly wherever we want to. And we don't actually care much about, anything else. And a lot of people like to fly over their mum's house. So they'll have a route. They go, my mum lives over here, so I'm going to fly over here. Or perhaps a girlfriend want to impress their girlfriend. So they fly over their houses, or they just think, oh, there's a pretty island or some nice mountains. We'll fly over there.
All right. Well, thank you for that answer.
Yeah, no problem at all, Jeff.
So we should move on to the next. No, wait a minute. That's not right.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to improve our accuracy rating with that one just a little bit
Okay,
here.
so
Just slightly.
Let's try and bring them back up. Okay, there are a variety of factors that'll determine our route. And sometimes it can be simple, just a matter of which winds are going to give you the lightest headwind, or if you're flying from JFK to Moscow, you're going to be looking at the best tailwind. And those winds we pick up are in jet streams. Those jet streams move around depending upon the weather systems that are present over the Atlantic, and they occur at high levels, and we try and slide into those jet streams because they're corridors of very fast moving air that'll often increase your speed over the earth by 100 miles an hour or more. And if you can stay in one for as long as possible, obviously it boosts your speed and decreases the flight time significantly, gets you to your destination quicker and uses less fuel. We'll measure that against the cost of certain routings. So some routings, even though the jet streams are strong and good, will take you into airspace where the navigation fees are quite high. So you may not want to go into a particular piece of airspace and pay an extra fee when just going a little further south or north will keep you into cheaper airspace, and that will obviously make a difference. Sometimes if you're flying a twin-engine airplane, you won't want to go too far away from diversions that are en route, so that you maintain your ETOPS, your extended twin operations legality, and you have to stay within a certain time distance from airfields so that you can divert to them if you lose an engine, and that will obviously change your route. And sometimes it's just a matter of congestion. So some routes will be heavily, a lot of aircraft trying to get onto the same route, and you'll be programmed to fly on a slightly different route so that there's a better chance of you actually being able to fly your flight plan. So all those get thrunged together, and we've got a bunch of flight planners who will usually fire them through a computer and come out with the cheapest and best option that suits the flight time and the cost, etc., and balances everything against fuel cost, navigation fees, and your arrival time, and then calculates the best route to take. And of course, depends on where the captain's girlfriend lives as well.
That takes precedence, of course.
Exactly right. We can have an influence in this. So if a route we're looking at is going to take us into an area of turbulence we're not happy with, we can often ask to have the route deviated slightly to take you clear. But quite honestly, those areas of turbulence move. The predictions are not terribly accurate. So generally speaking, we'll just go with the flow and deal with it when we get there. So a lot of factors in there, and they vary because the weather systems move, and the heads and tailwinds, those jet streams, will move up and down, move north and south, and we will have to move our routes to match them, generally speaking, because that's often the main job, is to try and get into those winds or avoid those winds as much as possible, depending on whether you're going east or west, because generally speaking, they go from west to east. It's all to do with the circulation of the Earth. If the Earth ever decides to spin the other way, they'll go from east to west. But that's not likely to happen.
Probably not. Probably not.
Would be good,
because we're all scientists here.
Absolutely.
I mean, they say anything's possible, but
yeah,
I wouldn't count on that one.
Well, the North Pole might swap with the South Pole one.
Yeah, I mean, give it
happen.
100 or 200 million years or more.
Well, actually, we're due one, aren't we? Aren't we due a swap?
I think we are due one. Yeah.
Oh, like how soon? Like
yesterday.
Before you retire.
Oh, really? Wow.
Could be.
Might be before Nick retires.
Could be. Nah.
150. How many days?
Oh, it's around 145 days now. So,
but who's counting?
Yeah, exactly.
Nick.
Woo.
All right. Well, thank you. That's a great explanation for the variety of different routes you might see on a particular flight. Thank you, Nick. And thanks, JJ, for posing the question. And we hope that you have a great flight to Moscow.
And if you are the JJ who's my manager, you should be doing some work, not writing to the show.
Leave us alone. Okay. Someone named Liz sent in this piece of feedback. This incident happened in 2011, she says, but the inquiry results were just recently published. Thought it was an interesting incident. Would like to hear your thoughts on the situation. Thanks, Liz. Liz is our producer. So this was put out on the 18th of December, 2018. And as Liz mentioned, the event actually occurred in 2011. And it goes, let's see, what's the source? Flight dashboard. I've never heard of that before. Interference from a departing aircraft disrupted the ILS signal moments before a landing. Singapore Airlines Boeing 777-300ER veered off the runway at Munich. German Investigation Authority, the BFU, says that the 777 crew was conducting an automatic landing, a decision it describes as understandable given the weather conditions, cloud base of 300 feet and a visibility of 2 kilometers. The airport was operating under Category 1, which did not require the increased aircraft separation necessary during Category 2 or Category 3 operations. The BFU says that 777 pilots did not tell the approach controller that they intended to perform an automatic landing to runway 8 right. The controller, as a result, allowed a BAE Systems Avro RJ-85 to enter the runway and take off while The approaching 777 was 2.1 nautical miles from the threshold. As the 777 crossed the threshold at 50 feet, the RJ-85 was climbing away and passed in front of the localizer antenna, significantly interfering with the signal. The RJ-85 was flying relatively low because it had conducted an intersection takeoff and had a lower climb rate. Because the 777 was carrying out an automatic landing, the disturbance to the ILS caused it to bank slowly to the left, up to 3.5 degrees, and the crew responded with an attempted go-around. The inquiry believes the crew had considered the possibility of ILS interference and had been prepared to initiate a missed approach, but were nevertheless confused by the aircraft's late deviation. While the captain called for the go-around flap setting and the takeoff go-around switches were pressed, the aircraft did not respond with go-around thrust. The inquiry found that the moment the switches were pressed, the aircraft's left main gear touched down, and Boeing's system logic inhibits the go-around mode in such an event. This prevented the crew from being able to initiate an automatic go-around, says the BFU. It adds that the captain subsequently decided not to attempt a manual go-around because by then the aircraft had switched to ground mode. The crew stated that, in their estimate, a go-around procedure initiated manually with an aircraft already on the ground would have been much more dangerous than remaining on the ground. As the aircraft rolled out along the runway, the autopilot remained engaged. It used the rudder and nose wheel to follow the localizer signal, steering the aircraft to the left. BFU says the captain applied right rudder to try to keep the aircraft on the runway, but owing to the autopilot's remaining engaged, the control input remained ineffective. The aircraft veered off the left side of the runway at 123 knots, some 944 meters beyond the threshold, rolling for 400 meters through the grass. As both pilots applied right rudder through the pedals, the autopilot disengaged. And the 777 swung to the right by 40 degrees, re-entering the runway about 1,566 meters from the threshold. It crossed the center line of 8 right with a heading of 120 and veered off the right side of the runway at 71 knots before coming to a halt in the grass 35 seconds after touchdown.
Ride 'em, cowboy.
That must have been an interesting.
Right?
Like, I'm thinking, why not like disconnect all the auto stuff and like fly the airplane? It's just making me frustrated reading this. You probably can tell.
Yeah.
Like, really?
I watch you shaking your head. Well,
yeah. Well, you got to watch the video to see my nonverbal communication. So, what do you think about this one, huh?
Sounds like there were a couple opportunities here to not have this outcome.
Right. If so I don't know. Where was this?
This happened in Munich.
Munich. Okay, so in the States, I believe when the weather gets to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dana, I think it's like 800 foot ceiling and 2 miles visibility. They automatically protect. We have a protected area. So if you're in these weather conditions, 302 miles, in the U.S., I believe, you can expect that all this stuff would be protected. They would not allow an airplane to take off in front of you and possibly disrupt the signal from the instrument landing system. But I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. But even then, it might be a good idea to let the tower or approach control and tower know that you are planning on conducting an auto land.
Is that part of your SOPs if you're doing it in a situation where
Yes.
you'd not necessarily be required to use it? Yeah.
Well, so
Or if,
or
even if you are required to use it, do you have to?
So a lot of times, the airplane has to be, I think every
Because I know you have to do it just to.
every 30 days, I believe the airplane has to have a auto land conducted to remain auto land capable. And so after about 20 days, I think maintenance, it automatically puts out a note on the flight plan that requests that the crews perform an auto land. And then when we do, then we have to log it so that the airplane now is still auto land capable. Now, I don't think it's a strict requirement that we have to tell approach and tower that we are conducting a practice auto land, although it's probably a very good idea because you can end up in a situation like this where the protected area is not protected, and you could get into a weird situation.
Well, and Jeff, I mean, the numbers you put out there, 802, rings a bell. I'd have to actually look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's an accurate number. I know there's a differentiation on Cat 2, Cat 3 operations versus just straight Cat 1 operations, and I'd have to actually look it up because it's been a while since I've looked at it. But as far as notification, yes, absolutely, we're supposed to, per our SOPs, at least if I remember correctly, and remember I've done some recent studying. Anytime we're going to do a practice on them, we're supposed to let them know.
Well, I looked that up actually, and I did not find that, but maybe I was just looking in the wrong place. But
yeah, we have that procedure, Jeff. So in Europe, certainly in the UK, if low visibility procedures are in force, it will be in the ATIS, so you can tell. And if it's not there, then you have to ask for the runway to be protected because you're going to do a practice Cat 3, and our company procedures require that. If they don't want to slow the progress of airplanes, they will often then say, you're welcome to, but we will be unable to protect the ILS for you. And it sounds like this crew were aware that they may not have a protected ILS, and that's really what worries me. They knew they might get interference. So having the aircraft diverge from the localizer would hardly have been unexpected. They should have briefed for it. They should have prepared for it. And indeed, it appears they were. Why on earth they didn't take out the autopilot and keep the aircraft on the centerline, I don't know. But then having tried to go around, having fallen foul, another incident of a 777 crew falling foul of the Boeing auto thrust system in the go around. The last one you'll recall was the 777 in was it Dubai or Abu Dhabi? One of those.
Yeah, I think in Dubai. Yeah, one of those places
where they did a go around and the pilot pressed the go around buttons. He didn't follow the throttles through to make sure they opened, but he did pitch the airplane up and try to do a go around, and of course ran out of airspeed because the throttles remained firmly at close because the aircraft thought it was on the ground, because the weight on wheels logic had activated the ground mode, and he stalled and smacked the airplane and wrecked the airplane. It caught fire, big mess.
Yeah, that was Dubai a couple of years ago now, 2 years ago.
Yeah. So this is obviously a known problem for Boeing pilots, and they should be well briefed by now, and they should have been beforehand on the intricacies of their toga buttons, how they work, and under what logic circumstances they won't work, which is the most important thing. Because your hands are on the throttles, you should also be following through with them to make sure they do what you expect. You'd think they would be doing that. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That's what just gets me.
Like I said, a couple instances here to prevent the eventual outcome from happening.
Yeah. I mean, you should be when the autoflight system, especially when you're getting low to the ground, if you do not have your hand on the yoke or the stick and the throttles or the thrust levers or whatever the heck you want to call these things, you're stupid. You have to be flying the airplane with the autoflight system, and when the autoflight system is not doing what you expect it to do, then you make it happen. And
that's right, but it does worry me that it appears in this circumstance that it said the rudder system remained ineffective because they hadn't disconnected the autopilot at that point. Now, I don't know.
The control input was ineffective.
Right.
So not the rudder was ineffective.
Yeah, so the autopilot was trying to follow the signal, which is still being
bent. The pilot was trying to oppose it, but the fact that the pilot couldn't oppose it until he disconnected the autopilot just kind of worries me. If there's a 777 guy out there, Miami Rick, come to our help here. Does the rudder really not effective if the autopilot is on my aircraft? If I were to kick the rudder in the opposite direction of the way the autopilot was trying to push it, the autopilot would immediately flick off. And
that was certainly before I would even try to do that. I would be disconnecting the autoflight system, the autopilot, and taking over manually anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But as you say, Nick, it should have some kind of an override pressure that once it reaches a certain pound per square inch pressure on the control, then it goes, oh, okay, then you have the airplane then.
Well, it sounds like it did eventually, but by that time they had so much rudder on that they went straight back across the runway and out the other side again.
Like a
Well,
swing.
because it had applied it so far in the other direction at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just
nightmare. None of the 162 occupants were injured. Well, thank the Lord for that.
They were scared. You know what?
Just had a nice roller coaster ride on the ground.
Yeah.
All right, so
have anything good to say.
I did some research.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
All right, so whether less than 800-foot ceiling or 2 miles or less, the ILS critical areas are protected. Vehicles,
I got it right.
And you did, in aircraft are not, except for aircraft landing, exit, depart, and execute misapproach, are not authorized in or over the critical area when an arriving aircraft is between the outer marker or fixed in lieu of the outer marker and the airport. Auto-land approaches may be conducted without contacting ATC. That's whether it's 800 or below 2 miles visibility. Whether at above ceiling 800 foot and visibly greater than 2 miles, no critical area action is provided under these conditions. The flight crew should advise, doesn't say it has to, should advise the tower that will conduct an auto-land or coupled approach to ensure the ILS critical areas are protected when the aircraft is inside the middle marker. If ATC cannot provide protection, the auto-land approach may be conducted at the captain's discretion.
The captain's
interesting.
Captain's
Discretion.
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 Yes.
How discreet's the captain? Oh,
Yes.
no.
Yeah.
No kidding. In
Well, I must
addition,
say that I've conducted practice autolands without saying a thing, but again, I'm always following through it. If the thing starts doing something wonky, then I just take over manually.
Yeah.
But from now on, though, I will definitely say something like, okay, just letting you know we're doing a practice autoland. If that works out with your flow, because I don't want to screw everybody else up. I'm going to do my best to try to get a practice autoland in there to keep the aircraft, still certified for it. But if ATC says no, we can't accommodate that, we have too many things going on, then I'll go, okay, let's don't do it.
well, and if it'd be fair to say, Jeff, that if you come into Atlanta on 10 or 2.8, you can probably be rest assured that's probably not going to be an issue. 2.7, probably more of an issue. 2.7 left or 9 right.
Right.
Probably 2.6 right and 9 and 8 left would probably be also, unless somebody's coming off the GA ramp, the cargo side, will probably be okay.
Yeah, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Atlanta, the two latter options that Dana mentioned were the ones where most of the action occurs in Atlanta, where we have 2 runways on the north complex, 2 runways in the center complex, which used to be the south complex. And we have takeoffs and landings going on. And it's just amazing the number going on simultaneously on almost every weather condition. And but the southernmost runway, as Dana mentioned, 2.8 and 1.0, it's kind of off, a couple of miles to the south, and not a lot going on there. So you're probably okay not to worry about interference.
And also to raise our accuracy rating. Remember how I said, I remember there was another value that was associated with all this. And additionally, when the weather is less than 200 foot ceiling or RVR is 2,000 feet or less, ATC will not allow any vehicles or aircraft in the ILS critical areas when arriving aircraft is inside the middle marker. Cat 2 or Cat 3 operations may be conducted without requesting any additional protections. So in other words, when it's low, they're going to protect in the States. They're going to protect for Cat 2 or Cat 3 operations. So absolutely once you get down that low. So we're all right.
Yes. So, but the point of all this, to me, is that, and even stated in this report, and Nick, you mentioned it, that the crew kind of knew that there could be an issue with the signal being affected by other operations. And even that didn't prevent this incident from occurring. And I just going back to the children of the magenta, if the airplane's not doing what you want it to do, then click, 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 and then disconnect things and just be a pilot and fly the darn airplane, and then you're going to be able to keep it on the runway. But,
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Stepping down from my soapbox.
It's a nice soapbox, though.
Well, thank you. I have it all polished up for today's show.
For every show.
Yeah, for every show. Hey, our good friend Ray, my neighbor to the north in Alpharetta, sent us some feedback, and he said that he hopes that we're all having a great holiday season. Thank you, Ray. I think we all did.
Mhm.
And he said, I thought that folk at APG might be interested in a book I received for Christmas. Me, Rick, we're still on the show to comment on it. Me too. I think we all do. He sent in a. Oh, hang on a second. I just realized that he sent in some audio feedback. What the heck? He put it between two images and it was hiding. I didn't see it. Did you guys know that there was audio feedback there?
No, but I see it now.
Yes, between those two images, Jeff.
Thank you, Nick. You saw it the whole time, didn't you? Yeah.
What were we saying earlier about, noticing something and not speaking up about it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But anyway, so I just noticed that. So I'm going to push this button right here and see what Ray has to say. It's his review of this book. And the title of the book is Cargo Pilot by Christian van Heist. Let's see how Ray does with the pronunciation.
Hi, Captains and Doctor and other APGers, especially those of you who live south of the equator and have enjoyed a Christmas barbie and perhaps an evening dip in the pool or the sea. I send you all my best wishes for the season and for the new year from my house in Atlanta, where the continual rain is trying to convert my front garden into a rice paddy. Anyways, on to what I want to talk about today. Unwrapping my gifts on the evening of the 24th, I came to one from my son and daughter-in-law and the two grandkids who live in Boston. It was a book titled Cargo Pilot by Christian van Heist. Now, I really want to warn you all against buying this book. Christian, I don't want to sound familiar, but I can't keep saying Mynheer van Heist, the 747 pilot with Cargo Lux. His book of some 200 pages contains some of the greatest aeroplane-related photographs I've seen. In fact, the Dust Jacket proclaims him as one of the world's leading aviation photographers. And from what I see in this book, that is no hyperbole. We see the aircraft he has flown inside and out. We see the places he has flown to, from sunrise over the threshold of 07 left at Hong Kong, to finals to runway 19 at Cotopaxi Airport, 9,200 feet above sea level in Latacunga, Ecuador. There is a view of a traffic-clogged A9 seen from the finals to Schiphol's 18 right, the Paul de Bahn, Anchorage's 7 right, with a bank of fog obscuring the far half, and finals onto 06 at Ndjili at Kinshasa, where ongoing construction, mere meters from the display's threshold, continues almost unaware of the approaching aircraft. There's a sunset photo of the shadow of the 747 on the modern cargo terminal at O'Hare, and there is a shot in Lagos, Nigeria, of the small hut with corrugated iron roof and hand-painted sign signifying it is the immigration office for cargo pilots. In the chapter on Africa, we see a mass of people around the door waiting to board the Fokker 50 that he flew in a previous job, and he describes the scene where 200 tickets have been sold for the 50-seater aircraft and how matters were eventually sorted out. And what I found really refreshing is that he treats this matter-of-factly without any snide remark or put down of the locals. It is Africa, it can happen. In a previous job, Christian spent some time flying in Afghanistan, which he describes as some of the most fantastic adventures of my flying career. He states that Afghanistan has had a special place in his heart, and from looking at the photos, such as the climb out from Mazar-e Sharif with craggy ridges just off the starboard wing, to snow-covered mountains not too distant from the far end of runway 29. From an IL-76 on short finals to locals happily cycling along the airport taxiway to see the pleasure he got from flying there. Somehow while in Afghanistan, he got to fly in an IL-76 of North Korea's Air Koryo, and he was invited on board a Russian Antonov AN-12 when it was taxiing to a different part of the airport. Of this visit, he states, "These aeroplanes are built to last and operate in the most extreme conditions. They beat Western-built aircraft there easily in every aspect." One chapter is devoted to photos of the night sky with beautiful captures of the aurora and the Milky Way from the clear skies at high altitudes. And he devotes a chapter to the mysterious red lights he witnessed in August 2014 at the times of the earthquakes in San Francisco and in Chile. Their 747 was flying between Hong Kong and Anchorage and was southeast from the Russian Kamchatka Peninsula, and far ahead, an orange glow began to appear far beneath them. As they approached, this light became more and more intense as a series of bright orange circles illuminated the clouds beneath them. Christian discounts theories of Asian shrimp boats, which he has seen and which do not cover as vast an area, nor do they have orange lights, and he provides comparative photos of these lights and the lights of the city of Winnipeg from roughly the same altitude and with the same camera. From this he ascertained that the area of the strange orange lights covered an area of about 35 to 40 kilometers in diameter. There are a couple of sad photos in the book too. From Afghanistan, there are photos of the Bamiyan Valley, where he shows the area where the Taliban destroyed the huge statues of Buddha dating from the 6th century. Almost as sad are the shots from airports he has visited, where fleets of aircraft are left to rot away. There is a rather poignant photo of a DC-8 62H in the Skymaster Airline livery, which has about it all the resigned look of a dog in a shelter awaiting rescue. Throughout the book, photographs generally have a small box with a note about each, and there is a good amount of descriptive prose as well, especially with shots of his aircraft and his experience of flying. His writing style is kind of reminiscent of Murchie and Gann, and his love of his job and his profession comes through strongly. There is a point where Christian says, "There will be a day when I will sit quietly at home and will be remembering all of these places, runways and short finals. Life within a cockpit is window on adventure." All in all, this is an exceptionally fine volume. So much more than a coffee table book, it is one that can be returned to over and over, and each time one will find something new and beautiful in it. So why do I warn APGers against getting it? Well, if they're like me, they could well find themselves experiencing something way worse than APG syndrome. I found the book awoke in me a lust to be a cargo pilot and experience the magic of Christian's life. Of course, there was a small matter of retirement age, but I felt that I could visit a local high school and for $1 or $2 acquire documents, in air quotes, that would show me to be much younger than I really am. To be true, Christian has pointed out that the life of a cargo pilot has its downsides and is not for everyone. Being away from home for 3 weeks at a time, sudden changes in schedules and destinations, inability to make personal plans far in advance. But then there are his pictures and his writing and the magic places and the aeroplanes. It's always the aeroplanes. In Cargo Pilot, Mynheer van Heest has managed to formulate a siren song that will do its best to tear you from your current job. So be warned, if you do buy this book, do make sure you have a sturdy mast to be bound to. And that's it from Ray Williams in Alpharetta Georgia. Cheers, folks.
Thanks, Ray. That was a great review. And Tiffany, our APG librarian, I hope you're listening. We'll have to add that to the
Add it
library.
to the list.
Very nicely done, Ray.
Yes, I love.
You just made one mistake, Ray. They're not called cargo pilots. They're called trash haulers. Okay.
Freight dogs.
Freight dogs. Yeah.
So yeah, the
hauling rubber dog poop out of Hong Kong.
That's the one.
So the life of an airline pilot, especially long haul pilot, is tough. But I think we all agree that being a freight dog or cargo pilot or trash hauler or whatever you want to call it is even more demanding than what we do.
For sure. But it seems to have its lighter side. And certainly if you're as good a photographer as this gentleman is, he obviously thoroughly enjoys his work.
Right. Making the most of it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thanks again, Ray, for the wonderful review. And that looks like a book that we'll all have to take a look at.
Yeah.
And okay. Moving on to Eric, A-R-I-C-H. I don't think I've ever, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm assuming it's pronounced Eric.
I know an Eric who spells his name E-R-I-C-H, but that sounds right.
Yeah, I might have said Eric.
Eric. Eric?
Okay,
Eric.
I'm not hearing the difference, but okay.
Or a rich.
Hi all.
Perhaps he's very wealthy.
Oh, he's a rich guy.
A rich.
And a rich guy. Okay, gotcha.
There it is.
Hi all, Captain Jeff, Dr. Steph, Old Pilot, FNG, and MR.
FNG. I'm not sure who he's referring to. I think he's referring to Dana.
I think he's definitely referring to me.
Stands for the new guy.
Yeah.
The freaking new guy.
Yeah, exactly.
A fat new guy. One of the two.
No, I don't think so. Okay. I've been listening since shortly after Jeff, not the good-looking one. That would be me. Thank you. Appearance on the other APG show. Okay.
AGP.
AGP. Okay, gotcha. I have sent in a few feedbacks, but probably long forgotten. Yeah, well, hopefully. I was listening to another show. Yes, there are others.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
We don't like them very much.
No, I'm just kidding.
We love them all.
Fix it in post. And heard a very interesting episode of Hangar Flying from a localish, to me, not you, reporter and pilot. Captain Jeff, you may have even run across him. No, I didn't. I have nothing. I wasn't there. I did not run over him. And if I did, it was his fault because he was drinking too much. Anyway, since he was in the Air Force as a T-37 instructor, as well as flying the C-130 and C-141. As a civilian, he has flown the 727, the A320, 75, 76, and currently 777. He also owns and flies a 1940-ish Luscombe. Anyhow, he did a video from his local hangar, Kilo Golf Oscar, Nevada County Airport. It's a slightly less busy than KATL or Heathrow, but maybe has some more interesting characters hanging around. There are several interviews with real pilots, he puts in capital letters, R-E-A-L, real pilots, from the days before glass screens and computers. I hope this link works. And he gave us the link, and it did work. And yes, I do know, well, I don't know him personally. I did know him from the Air Force. The guy's name is Juan.
2, 3, 4.
Not one. Juan, J-U-A-M, Juan. But shoot, let me press this button here and get the actual. I don't know if he uses his real name or not in this. Blancolario, I think is his YouTube channel name. And I, when you go on YouTube and you look at things for, things that you're interested in, then it kind of throws up a whole bunch of other things that YouTube thinks that you might be interested in. And his videos came up in that setting, and he was covering there's some kind of an Oroville Dam, I guess, that is in risk of collapsing or something like that in Northern California, and also the fires that they had last month, a couple of months ago. He was covering that, and he's a great YouTuber, great videographer, and a great reporter. And he flies for a major legacy carrier. And but seeing this hangar talk video that he did very recently at Nevada County Airport is very interesting and definitely worth watching. But I don't know him personally, so that's all I have to say about that.
I have something to say.
Okay.
We're all real pilots because we all started flying airplanes like the 141 or Dana, what was your first real airplane? In fact, you're still flying a real airplane. God damn it!
Yeah.
I flew the Phantom and the Hunter, and I might fly a glass cockpit now, old chap. But we're all real pilots.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't think he
absolutely.
meant that as a negative thing, thrown our way.
A slate to all of you,
Yeah,
all of us.
yeah, because it is in capitals. Real
Yeah.
pilots.
So these guys are like they're old timers, and
But they
they've been
are.
around.
He's right though. I mean, it's great to go out to your local FBO airport. And we're talking small airports here, and the one that's in the video suspiciously looks like every other small FBO building I've ever been in out here on the East Coast. You walk in, just a small room. There's like a couch, coffee
Coffee
small
that's been sitting
coffee
on the
that's
burner for like
burning,
2 or 3
definitely
hours.
burning. Yeah, and everyone's just sitting around, and the stories become a little bit more exaggerated with every hour that goes by, and it's good company and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
to be honest with you, I think I'd have to look, but I think it's somewhere in the number 30 of different aircraft I have actually flown in my life. A lot of it instructing, a lot of it just putting around, and I've spent a lot of time doing that hangar flying with quote unquote real pilots. But that's how we all learn, actually, is that we learn from each other and we become better because of it. Just like I learned from my initial flight instructor and learned as I became more mature pilot, and got to fly with guys like Jeff that helped me become a real.
Yeah, he's a
airline
real
captain.
mature pilot.
Yeah,
He is.
real mature. But
I am
so,
mature.
that's we all
Age-wise.
we all learn from each other, and whether you're at the local airport. My point is whether you're at the local airport around old guys that have been around for a long time, or you're sitting in an airline cockpit, you're still doing hangar flying every time you get in the airplane, and you always cut up. So it's a great way to learn.
Yep, it is, and definitely worth looking at this guy's YouTube channel, Blanca Lirio or whatever. I don't know how you pronounce it, but anyway, we'll have this.
I listened to the interview. Actually, I was just going to have a glance at it, but I watched it all. It's brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and you're quite right. People like that who he was talking to, they're always going to be well missed when they go because they're just full of great stories.
Living history.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
One could say that we're doing that right now.
Yeah, in our own way.
Exactly, in our own way.
Yeah. I'll shed a tear when you're gone, Dana. How's that?
Wow.
Wow.
That's really nice.
Ouch.
Suddenly got very
honest.
sentimental around here. I don't know.
My little pinky toe just got hurt.
I was trying to be nice.
Was it like a backhanded compliment or something?
Yeah, I know.
I don't even think it was
Wow.
that.
No, it didn't reach that level.
No.
All right, nice talking to you guys. I'll see you later.
No, Dana, no. He's just kidding.
Oh,
Okay.
I know.
Let's see. Liz, are we at 2 hours yet?
Yep, we are.
Are we?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Well, then you know what that means. It's time for this week's installment of Plain Tales. And this one is bathtubs, potatoes, shoes, and flat irons.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. Bathtubs, potatoes, shoes, and flat irons. Gaze around the fabulous Smithsonian Air and Space Museums in Washington, and you'll see some wonderful looking aircraft and some damned ugly ones as well. Of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but even so, it takes a squinting, sideways look through very dark glasses to make some exhibits look attractive. One such aircraft might be the Northrop M2F3. As I write this, it was in this very month, back in 1972, that this bulbous, wingless metal bathtub took its last flight with NASA research pilot John Mankey at the controls and 500 feet and safely back to Earth. Of course, if you give something enough thrust, it will probably fly, even if it's just for a while. But having got it into the air, it has to have some redeeming features, or it won't stand a chance of landing safely again. The family of aircraft that the M2F3 belonged to had very few redeeming features, but just enough to do the job. And the job was to descend from very high level, as a spacecraft re-entering from Earth's orbit would do, and come down in a controllable manner through the ever-thickening atmosphere to make a safe landing on a convenient runway, so that the vehicle could be used again. Up to this point, the conclusion of a space flight was re-entry in a capsule, which was generally on a ballistic flight path over which the astronauts had very little control. During deceleration, the G-forces were very high, upwards of 8G, and landing was courtesy of parachutes. What's more, the potential landing area was vast, with no real way to alter it once the arrival angles were set. It was in the early 60s, as the Apollo program was gearing up to take the first men up to walk on a planet other than Earth, that the concept of the lifting body took off, so to say. I don't think that Roy Scroggs would ever have imagined that his patent, registered in 1917 for the very first lifting body conceived, would ever be used for such a lofty purpose, but it was him that came up with the idea. A tailor from Eugene in Oregon, he designed a noseless, long, narrow delta that would provide safe, economical performance to everyday flying enthusiasts. His design was much ridiculed, so when he finally registered a full-size machine as November Charlie 10648, he called it the Last Laugh. Following initial test flights, his detractors proved correct, as a lifting body is very inefficient at the sort of speeds he could manage, and he gave up on the project. But little did he know that his ideas would later form the basis for spacecraft design, and he would indeed get the last laugh. I should probably explain what a lifting body actually is and how it flies. Imagine a dumpy little aircraft of conventional design and take off both the wings and the tailplanes, so that all you have is the fuselage and the fin. That is a lifting body. Directional stability and control usually requires 2 or even 3 fins, and pitch control was achieved by attaching elevons onto the rear of the fuselage. Of course, without wings to provide lift, the lifting body has to create all it needs from the shape of the fuselage, mainly the underside. Almost every shape imaginable can create lift to one degree or another, and most parts of an aircraft contribute to the overall amount of lift. We only tend to refer to the wings because they provide the most. If we assume that a brick has a glide angle of 90 degrees, which means it's coming vertically straight down, and a sport glider has a glide angle of around 1 degree, hardly descending at all, then more or less everything else lies in between. The average airliner glides at around 5 degrees, which isn't much different from a Cessna 172, which achieves 5.2 degrees. A lifting body can manage a glide angle of 16 degrees. Not bad at all, considering it doesn't have wings. What the lifting body design had to achieve was to be able to fly in a pretty precise and controllable manner through just about the greatest speed range imaginable. At the start of re-entry, it would be doing around 17,000 miles an hour. Once into the upper reaches of the atmosphere, it would become hypersonic, starting at Mach 25 and slowing to Mach 5 around 3,400 miles an hour. As it came lower, it would move to the supersonic range between Mach 5 and Mach 1.5. That's 3,400 down to 1,000 miles an hour, and then into the transonic region of Mach 1.5 to Mach 0.8. That's a mere 1,000 down to 550 miles an hour. From there, it would be subsonic as it continued to slow from 550 miles an hour to a landing speed of around 200 miles an hour. I don't know about you, but I find that just getting my head around the enormity of that challenge almost beyond me. The problems involved must have seemed impossibly daunting, but in NASA and the space agencies in other countries, there were men and women willing and capable of taking on that challenge. To summarize, the craft had to survive re-entry heating, it had to limit the deceleration g-forces to only around 3g, it had to be maneuverable in 3 distinct phases, hypersonic, supersonic, and subsonic, and then achieve a conventional landing. It had to have a sufficiently low lift-over-drag ratio so that it could glide successfully. It had to be large enough to carry an adequate payload volume and weight. And finally, it needed to be reusable. So were born a series of the most unlikely-looking aircraft since Roy Scroggs got into the air, only to around 10 feet, mind you, in the last laugh. It started with the Northrop M2F2, an all-metal, blunt-nosed Delta design with a bulbous, rounded belly and a flat upper surface, above which protruded a bubble canopy. It had a pair of fins on either side of the rear end with rudders and split elevons, both on the top and the bottom of the rear fuselage, but I'm getting ahead of myself a bit. Let's go to the remote desert flight test area that housed the NASA Flight Research Center at Edwards Air Force Base. Working in there was a small band of uniquely qualified people who had been brought together to test fly the Bell XS-1, which became the X-1 Glamorous Glennis that took Chuck Yeager supersonic for the first time. It was a place where test pilots, engineers, and technicians breathed the same air and walked the same corridors. In 1963, the lifting body concept started when an enthusiastic engineer, Dale Reed, circumvented all the normal bureaucratic channels by getting a band of volunteers together to work on his ideas. They unofficially designed and worked on their creation on a shoestring, financed by the money they were given to maintain the facility. In their spare time, they begged, borrowed, and stole what they needed to get things done. When they wanted a rocket engine, they got their hands on an old rocket that had powered early experimental aircraft for nearly 30 years. They managed to get museums to give up their exhibits and even reuse the motor from Chuck Yeager's Bell X-1. Their first flying creation was actually the M2F1, M for manned, F for flight, which was knocked up out of plywood over a tubular metal frame and towed aloft by an R4D, which is a Navy C-47, or as some know it, a Douglas DC-3. The unlikely wooden aircraft was nicknamed the Flying Bathtub. A number of the fabricators and engineers were members of the Experimental Aircraft Association, who had worked together on previous programs in the Flight Research Center's unofficial Skunk Works. It was a simple aircraft, just created to examine the problems of low-speed control and performance, but flown by an exclusive club of pilots, such as Milt Thompson, Bruce Peterson, Chuck Yeager, and others. 3 on the list went on to become astronauts. Fred Hayes went to the Apollo program and was involved in the near disaster that befell Apollo 13. Joe Engle and Dick Scobie became shuttle commanders for space flights. The success of the flight trials ensured proper status and funding for the project, so it progressed to the M2F2 all-metal aircraft, which became known as the Flying Potato. Also a purely gliding prototype, it was carried under the wing of the same B-52 that launched the X-15 rocket research aircraft. It was on one of these gliding tests that NASA pilot Bill Peterson nearly lost his life. If, like me as a kid, you ever watched The $6 Million Man, you will have seen his crash many times.
Looks good at NASA. We're coming forward with the side stick. Oh, looks good. Roger. I've got a blowout. Vapor 3. Get your pitch to 0. Pitches out. I can't hold altitude. Correction. Alpha horn is off. Trip selected. Emergency. Flight calm. I can't hold it. She's breaking up. She's breaking.
Steve Austin, astronaut, a man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
Patterson was distracted by a helicopter near his approach path, and in a machine that suffered from poor roll control, he drifted on a crosswind into an area of the lake bed landing area where there weren't any runway markings. Unable to judge his height, he fired the landing rockets but hit the ground before his gear was fully deployed. He rolled his aircraft 6 times along the lake bed before coming to rest upside down. They did indeed rebuild him, but sadly he lost the sight in one eye because of an infection. The success of the trial flights grew, and before long other designs were getting into the act. Northrop moved on to a rocket-powered version called the HL-10, Horizontal Landing 10th Design, which was similar to the M2F2 but with 3 fins. It flew well and reached 90,000 feet at Mach 1.86. Martin built the X-23 Prime, an unmanned vehicle which was launched atop an Atlas launch rocket to around 100,000 feet. It was designed to deploy a drogue balut and then be captured in mid-air by a modified C-130 Hercules, which was actually achieved in one of the 3 flights. Martin also trialed the X-24 series of craft. The A model was, like the Northrop design, short, fat, and bulbous, but using its XLR-11 4-chambered rocket engine, it got to Mach 1.35 at over 71,000 feet. The B model was a flattened Delta with a pointed nose, which flew to Mach 1.5 at 74,000 feet, and despite being a decidedly cooler design, was dubbed the Flying Flatiron. Several other versions were envisaged but never flown, but one mock-up, the SV-5J, was used in several movies as a spaceship prop. The Northrop designs progressed to the M2F3, which, after Bill Patterson's crash, was the same damaged machine but rebuilt and redesigned with a 3rd fin to aid in stability. It got up to Mach 1.613 and on its last flight, on the 20th of December 1972, reached 71,500 feet. There were other lifting body designs being developed elsewhere. The USAF contracted Boeing to build a military spaceplane that could fulfill various missions, including bombing and reconnaissance, and as a space interceptor. The Boeing design was a low-winged delta shape with winglets for control and named the X-20 Dinosaur. No, I'm not kidding. They called it the Dinosaur. Short for the Dynamic Soarer. Their program ran from 1957 to 1963, cost $660 million, and was cancelled just after construction started. The main problems appear to have come from uncertainty over which booster was to be used to launch the craft and a lack of clear goal for the project. In the UK, the British Aircraft Corporation was designing a reusable space vehicle under English Electric at Warton. Simply named Mustard, it stood for Multi-Unit Space Transport and Recovery Device and was a novel design. A delta-winged craft with a blended wing design, it would be launched as a triplet of vehicles, or up to 5 depending on the needs, each neatly nestled against the other. The outer 2 machines were there to act as boosters, and when their job was done, they would detach from the center one and glide back to Earth. The center module would use its engine to continue its journey into orbit and re-enter to glide back when its task was completed. In this way, every part of the assembly could be reused. The British government shelved the project in 1970, but key Mustard staff spent time working at North American Rockwell, contributing to the study that would ultimately lead to the space shuttle. The Russians were a little late to the game with the MiG-105 Spiral, which was built, probably in response to the USAF's Dinosaur. It had a cute upturned nose, leading it to be named the Shoe. Work began in 1965 and continued sporadically until 1978, but it did achieve 8 successful test flights. That was, with a few exceptions, the conclusion of the early lifting body experimental craft, and with the development of better ablative materials, the designs went forward to winged re-entry vehicles such as the Space Shuttle and the Russian Buran. The early work that came out of Edwards has continued to be used with more advanced machines, such as the HL-20, which came from a NASA and the North Carolina State University collaboration, and progress forward to the Dream Chaser project and the Orbital Science Prometheus spacecraft. To the east, the Russian Clipper project started in 2000 but is now on hold. The Virgin Galactic spacecraft design, despite setbacks, is getting closer to success, and India's RLVTD mini space shuttle continues to progress. However, all these spacecraft owe an enormous debt to those who came before, and for a while, mustard, potatoes, bathtubs, shoes, and flat irons ruled the wrist.
Good stuff. Wow.
Fantastic.
More than you wanted to know about, what'd you call that?
Lifting bodies.
Lifting bodies.
I try to think of some reference I could bring for Miami Rick, because he's a lifting body, isn't he?
Yeah.
But
I
have to put a quick thanks in to Micah. He's the guy that suggested it, reminded me of the date of that flight of the M2F2, and that provided me the germ to produce that one. And actually, once I got into it, I loved it. It was a great story. So, and I love the fact that they were stealing money from the fund that they required to maintain their buildings so that they could start the project. I think it's great. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, in an effort to provide some entertainment for and educate edutainment for our video watchers. I think I broke the hangout from my side. My
you're
cameras.
permanently a cartoon. Is that
It was
right?
a good.
You're
It
telling
was a good effort though for the pictures when you were able to put them up.
Yeah,
It worked
I had
sometimes.
the flying
I
potato,
like
the
the
flying
bathtub.
bathtub,
Yeah.
and I like the flying
Slinky?
spiral, the slinky.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
And I had some others in there, but apparently I overloaded the technology. It's completely broken.
Had
now.
enough. We'll have
I
to
can't
steal
even-
some money from the building funds to improve the technology. Right.
I can't even turn on the FaceTime camera. It's just like it's not recognizing any camera that I have attached to my computer at this point. So you're just going to have to watch my avatar and the rings of sound or whatever. But that was interesting stuff. Yeah, it's amazing that you can get almost anything to fly, sort of.
Sort of. I tell you what amazed me was the quality of the test pilots they got involved in the initial product, because those guys turned out to be, they were fantastic, and many of them moved on to the, become full-blown astronauts. So there weren't very many of them, and they were just this small cadre of fantastic engineers, great fabricators, and wonderful test pilots. It's a great story.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Thank you, Nick, for doing that, as always. We all appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And, let's see. Where were we before?
I believe number 5.
Number 5 is correct.
Perfect. Is there any hiding secret audio in this one? I don't think so.
No.
I think the audio that we had for Ray kind of caught us all off guard. Ray, you devil, you. Anyway, so let's see here. Let's do number 5. Steve writes, "Hi, APG." Let's see. I don't think this is Steve. Let's see. Who is this? Steve. Never mind. I can't figure it out. Started listening to your show last year and love hearing the insider aviation take on aviation news stories. Keep up the great work. My question is about using GPS as a passenger. One of the best things about flying is scoring a window seat. Yes, I agree with you. And looking at the scenery from 35,000 feet. I then want to know exactly what I'm looking at and where I am. I've loaded offline maps apps, so I don't need the data. Unfortunately, the built-in GPS in my iPhone works sparingly, if never, during flight. The IFE maps are not detailed enough to my liking. Do you have any recommendations for fitting my iPhone with a more powerful GPS antenna that can track the flight's progress in flight and actually work on my offline maps app? Thanks for your help, Steve. Now, Steve, I can tell you that I have a device that I don't know, I bought a couple of years ago, back when before we have the present EFB that we use now that has built-in GPS, and it's called it's made by a company called Bad Elf, and it's a very small GPS receiver, and it has Bluetooth, so it connects to your iPhone or your iPad or whatever device you have, and it's pretty accurate, but you got to get it like right up against the window. So that's the issue you're going to have in the passenger cabin with a GPS device, unless you're like right there smashing whatever device it is up against the window. And even then, you may not get a very good signal.
I can usually get my phone to work okay on most aircraft. I've actually found, actually, I don't know. I was trying to decide if it was easier because I usually fly either on, the Airbus A320, A321 products or Boeing 737. And it seems to be pretty equal across the board there in terms of how often I get GPS signal if I was going to use something like my 4Flight app for tracking. But sometimes it's very reliable, especially if you have Wi-Fi access too. That seems to help.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it might be that he's offline. Like if you're using full flight, it's going to interact a lot better. For example, with us, Jeff and I, we both have the iPad, which is is the company issued iPad that we use, and its internal GPS works pretty good for us to be able to track for on our work apps. Another one that is an external GPS that you can Bluetooth is the dual GPS, which is available online. But that that now you're talking about $100 for that one. I actually have it from when I was back in GA, and it's an excellent tool. And not supposed to use it at work, so I don't. But it is an excellent backup for the GPS in the iPad. So if I'm having a lot of problems, and sometimes and I really want to know where I am, but I don't necessarily use it really.
Of course.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
So the Bad Elf company also has a little device that plugs right into your Lightning port on your iPhone. However, I'm not sure it's going to do any better than the built-in GPS you already have in your iPhone. You're still going to need to get that little thing up against the window, and I guess you could use that with a Lightning to USB extender or a Lightning to female Lightning. I don't know how you would do it, but I guess you could figure out a way to get it up against the window. And the other thing I thought of is the Sean Chuplis, who is the proprietor of Crew Dog Electronics, has that ADS-B GPS device Stratex. That's like a couple $100.
Yeah, well, and you could look at the Stratus one, you can look at the Stratex, you can look at the open source ones. You could build your own if you're really
but you're talking about
savvy like that. You're talking about a significant amount of money. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's ways to do it. And it would also, if you took that Stratex with the little suction cups and stuck it up against the window, I think nowadays, I don't think there's any regulation for most airlines that says you can't use that, although you might draw some attention to yourself.
Well, you don't want to be using ADS-B out,
Yeah.
But those are all just receivers, so it should be okay.
I honestly think that the best way would be to get an aviation app such as FullFlight. If you're going to spend any money, first try that out
what also works well, that almost always reliably comes up with a spot on the map. I don't know if it's enough resolution or detail for his liking, but just Flight Radar 24, usually pretty accurate. It'll show you where you are. And airports nearby and that type of stuff.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to is the app that's installed, because what he's doing is an offline map, and it's not going to really interact with the GPS, I don't think, very well.
Yeah, it will. It will. I mean, if you have that map information there, it's just, I think the actual issue that he's having is the fact that he's not getting a good GPS signal from where he's sitting, even at the window.
You need to have a reasonable view of the sky, basically.
Right.
And the satellites over above us, they're not really to one side of us. So
Right.
You need to see a reasonable number. And from the cockpit window, which are angled, you get a better view of the sky above. So when our iPads are up against the cockpit window, because that's where they're mounted, we usually get a GPS signal, but it's pretty weak, because as soon as I pull the gold, because we're Airbus, so we have gold plated windshield.
You don't want that sun to give you
they're sunscreens. It kills the signal, because gold's a very good conductor. But I used to have a Bad Elf.
The caviar that you're eating and the champagne that you're sipping.
Yeah, usually we're not really interested in our position, because the food's so good. You're quite right. I used to have a Bad Elf, the remote one with a Bluetooth. I had the basic one, but it worked perfectly. It was really good, because there's a little tray beside our cockpit window, and you could just drop it in there, Bluetooth to the iPad, and was always very reliable. You'd have to probably glue a sucker on it and then plant it against your window, but that would be quite a discreet way of getting a position. I like the one that plugs in the bottom, though. That one looks quite neat. The one with the what's the lightning connector? I like that idea.
It's all about just getting it up against that window as close as you can.
Yeah, that's the trick. And I think Jeff's idea, if you want to, only spend $100 of getting an extender cable, so you could position that against the window, that would work quite well. But no, I've been asked in the past, passengers who are concerned, and quite honestly, most av geeks are concerned that what they do might affect the aircraft systems. If I'm okay with having GPS receivers running on the aircraft, I go, no problem at all. Because after all, they're only receiving. It's only when you've got transmitters that I would be vaguely concerned. And even nowadays, I'm not that concerned because obviously, there are lots of gear going on down in the cabin there.
Right. All right. Well, I hope that helped Steve. Maybe he has a few tips that he can look into a little bit further.
Yeah.
And that's the best we can do for you, though. All right. Moving on. Looks like our next item is from Paul. And he says, hi, ABG crew. I really enjoy the podcast. Just ran across this article and thought I would forward along since, if memory serves me correctly, Captain Nick did a plain tale about this story. And this story, well, Nick, what story is he talking about?
Well, it was one of our aircraft is missing series of plain tales they did about an aircraft that was stolen, mainly speaking by American mechanics. So
those darn Americans.
Yes, if you see an American mechanic walking around and climbing into an airplane, I suggest you put handcuffs on him straight away. But having said that, only do it on a Friday night when everyone's drunk.
Yeah,
because that's generally when it happened. But there were a number, including this C-130 that was pinched out of a UK. Well, it's an RAF base, but it was a USAF establishment that was on it.
It's just the kind of thing that we do.
Well, yeah, I know. He just wanted to get home to his girlfriend. You guys are such good lovers. Actually, he was his wife, to be absolutely correct. But he was a very upset young man who was desperate to get home, and he thought the best way was to steal a 130 and fly it home, and that was going to be the business. But he flew it at night on his own, which is no mean task, considering it would normally take in those days on those Hercs a crew of 4 or 5. He did it on his own, and what's more, he managed to get on the radio, and they organized a phone patch so he could speak through the radio to his wife back home, who tried to convince him to land it safely. And I see a picture of you, Jeff. You've got your eyes closed, but we'll ignore that. He eventually disappeared over the English Channel, and one assumes he lost control of the airplane. And although they did indeed launch, I think, an F-100 to try to intercept him, to, in inverted commas, assist him, and a 130 from the same base who chased after him. But he crashed. Now, the skeptics will claim that he was shot down, but I don't know, technology was pretty poor in those days for intercepting an aircraft at night at low level and shoot them down. So I think that's very much in doubt. And the F-100 pilot certainly said he didn't even complete an inception, didn't find the guy. But anyway, what we've got here is a chap who's devoted a lot of energy, because of his interest in the story, to sailing his boat around the English Channel with sonar equipment, and he believes he might have found the aircraft. He thinks he has found the aircraft, but the only evidence he gives in this article is that he found a wheel and some aluminium, and he knows it's aluminium because of the pattern of corrosion on it. And from my point of view, until he has some more definite information that this is the accident aircraft, I'm going to stay quite quiet on the subject, be quite skeptical, because if you think about it, the Channel and the Second World War, just think of the number of aircraft, multi-engine aircraft included, that crashed in to the Channel. There must be dozens, even hundreds that are down there, and plucking the Hercules that went down from amongst all those, I think, will be quite a task. So until he gets a serial number, and something of it, even if he identifies this as a Hercules. There's no guarantee that it's the Hercules that crashed. There's probably have been several Hercules crashes over the channel, I would guess, but that's only
Think of
only
the
a
number
guess.
of American mechanics that have stolen C-130s from the English Channel.
There's dozens of those. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys are dumping airplanes all over the world, so it wouldn't surprise me if you had half a dozen in the channel. So yeah, exactly right.
Okay.
I will wait to see more from the story.
Yeah,
honestly,
I think we need more definitive evidence.
Yeah, but he does say that this is a story which has rarely been told. Well, that's not true because I've told it.
Well, you told it rarely.
That's true. Medium rarely, actually.
Okay.
Medium rare.
Yeah.
But it was well done in the end.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Just hit the ground button on that one.
Okay, we all bow to Steph.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The king of puns. Or the
No,
queen
no,
of
that's
puns.
definitely not me. He was
Ah.
in the chat room earlier. If he's still there, I'm
Oh,
not sure.
okay.
But Sir Neville.
All right.
He says, actually, at one point, the seabed is a lonely place. Well, actually, considering the number of pilots that are down there from the Second World War, I think you'd be good company.
Yeah, it's not lonely at all.
No, not at all.
That pilot's down there. Well, thanks, Paul. Hope that, or thanks for sending that in, and glad we got Nick's take on that situation. Moving on to number 7, Alex. 3 questions for the crew. Wow, 3, huh? Okay.
Good job. It's a quiet week.
Yes. Hi, all. Not sent some feedback in a while, as I think they have been getting lost in the system. Yeah, that's what happened, Alex. It's getting lost in the system. Right, Liz? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, if you send us feedback, we don't like throw it away, or if we don't really get to it at a certain point, then perhaps resend it or something, because we sometimes things do get lost in translation. Anyway, it's a new year, so I've been in a reflective mood. I have 3 questions, so hang on to your hats. Number 1, I was thinking about a flight from 3 to 5 years ago on the way back from Dubai on an Emirates A380. Had the pleasure of being on the top deck, but at the very back of the aircraft. Halfway into the flight, the captain turned up. At this stage, I was less knowledgeable about flying and thought, who was flying the plane? Now that APG has imparted me with more knowledge, I know it's an inflatable pilot doing it. Think that the 50% APG accuracy is at work.
Ding.
Yes. Yep, ding. In all seriousness, we were at the back of the aircraft, row 25, which is equal to row 70-ish of the lower deck, which is all economy. He promptly then sat down to have a chat to his son for the next hour. I know that pilots, etc., can take a rest in the cabin, as Captain Nick has mentioned, but I would have expected that to be restricted to the front 5 to 10 rows. Is that the case? Yeah, I don't know what the rules are at Emirates when it comes to this sort of thing. He was probably obviously on his break, his rest break. I don't know what, I guess each airline probably has rules and regulations regarding, if you're on your rest break, where you must spend it. And, but I can't speak for this airline. Nick, do you have any ideas?
Well, I don't know about Emirates either, but I would suspect if he was going to be down the back of the aircraft for that length of time, he was probably in a crew that was augmented with 2 captains, 2 first officers. So there was an entire replacement crew up the front. So when you've got a captain and a first officer working, it doesn't really matter where you are in the aircraft, because if you're the sole commander of the aircraft, then you do need to be sensible and stay within reasonable touch of the front end. But if there's another captain up the front there, then you're not the least bit concerned. You can go down without any worries at all. Our company has reasonably relaxed regulations about that. It doesn't restrict your movement around the cabin if you want to move elsewhere and you're on your break. But it does say if you're going to sleep, you need to use the designated flight deck crew rest area, which is at the forward part of the aircraft. And personally, if I am the captain, occasionally I will wander down the back and visit the rear galley and just say hello to the crew, but that's just in passing, and particularly if I haven't met them earlier in the briefing or something before the flight. But I won't usually go down to the very after the aircraft, because if something happens, it's a pretty hard job to get back up to the front again if the airplane's in an unusual position or everyone suddenly stood up for some reason. So but I fully imagine in this case that he had another captain, another first officer at the front end looking after things while he was chatting to his son.
Very much likely, yes. Okay, well, let's move on. Can fighter jets intercept planes for training missions? Again, a flight back to the UK from UAE. We were around Syrian airspace, but this was back in 2013, so at this stage, still safe. Below, a huge thunderstorm was raging below. Then I saw a fighter jet next to the, or near to the aircraft in the night sky. He was on the left side. Pilot did not mention anything, so why would a jet... There's no hijacking or issue with the plane that was mentioned, and I don't think the pilot was lost. Could it have been for training purposes? Should the captain have not informed the passengers, even if it was training? And would they know? Maybe it was a UFO.
It was a UFO.
Oh, okay. It was probably a UFO then. That was an easy answer.
If it's a night and we're being intercepted, no, I wouldn't mention anything to the passengers, because the chances of the interceptor being seen are pretty remote, and there's no point waking everyone up, doing a PA just so everyone on the aircraft can get concerned. There's usually a very benign reason why you've been intercepted. It might have been you're out of communications for a short time, and they're just checking everything's all right before they disappear off and let you go on your way. So what's the point of waking everyone up and getting them all upset? The chances of you actually spotting an aircraft are pretty remote normally at night, because normally the window blinds are all down. There's very few people looking out. So that's the reason I wouldn't wake everyone up. Yes, it is possible, certainly in my time when I was a fighter pilot, to intercept civil aircraft. If the captain on the civil aircraft had written the magic code word embellish on his flight plan, that would indicate to the UK air defence authorities that he was willing to act as a target. And once he came into the UK air defence region, that would be confirmed with air traffic control. And then he would, we would lodge QRA perhaps as a practice intercept against him. And all that would be done would, an intercept would be conducted. I remember doing one against an HS-748 British Airways, and we stayed with the aircraft and followed them all the way into their destination on one of the Scottish Islands. So, it does happen. Whether that word embellish still exists, I have no idea, because it was like, we're talking 30 years ago that I did I was in the Air Force doing this regularly, so I have really no idea whether that is still current or not, or whether it's still practiced. But it certainly used to be, and I've no reason to think that it wouldn't be now for practice, although, quite honestly, in these days of litigation and people getting upset about the slightest possible thing, I think less likely nowadays.
Interesting. I didn't know that that kind of thing happened.
Yeah, we used to do it regularly. So, and it was up to anyone. If anyone wanted to write embellish on their flight plan, then they were offering themselves up as a target.
Cool.
Yeah.
And let's see. On question 3, this one for the Boeing versus Airbus people. I got a wonderful Christmas present this year, some time in a sweatbox simulator. Got to be said, I was really excited until I read the small print. Quote, prepare yourself for a truly unique experience in a Boeing without the E, the way that Nick likes to spell it, 737. At this point, I considered putting the present in the bin, but then I thought of all the questions I would have had for, he's doing that. I thought this is what actually it said, but apparently this is just the way he's spelling Boeing. Okay, questions I would have for a Boeing pilot, such as what it is like to be being stuck in the 60s. How do you eat without a table? Okay. How many candles do you need to light up the flight deck?
Oh, that is being rude now.
And where do you keep all the coal for the engines? Are you sure you're
Yeah,
not
and I
talking
wonder where
about the-
all of this, Alex got all this information in the first place, Nick.
Yeah.
I've never heard you say anything similar to that about
I absolve
Boeings.
myself of all responsibility.
Mhm,
I'm sorry. That's in the small print you'll find after each show.
The list goes on. Let's see. In all seriousness, I will report back how it goes and compare my lands to when you guys visited them in London. But if people in the community have questions they want answered by a Boeing pilot, let me know. Any words of advice apart from not losing my leg on the trim wheel? Yeah, watch that trim wheel. You can be very painful. Now, some of my favorite jokes I heard in 2018. Warning, they are all not kind to Airbus. Number one, what is the most requested item by Boeing pilots? The answer, a napkin, because it's so scary and messy flying a Boeing. Rim shot. Oh, I don't have my rim shot available here.
It doesn't deserve one. Sorry.
No, okay.
Nice try, Alex. There you get a rim shot.
Number two, did you hear about the bird strike on the A340-300? It was hit by the bird from behind. Okay. How far can you go with multiple engine failures? Answer, to the scene of the accident.
I suppose there's somebody in this world that might not have heard that one.
Yeah. The purpose of a propeller is to keep the pilot cool. Proof, if you stop the propeller, you can see the pilot start sweating.
Now, Steph, is that true?
Depends. Depends on where you are when that event happens.
Yes.
Yes. If you're
in the
parked
air.
on the apron.
Yeah, if you're parked on the apron, I mean, you
problem.
might start sweating because it might actually, you're probably already sweating if it's hot outside.
That's true.
And his last one, thankfully, thank you, God. And I leave with you with, what separates flight attendants from the lowest form of life on Earth?
Bada bing, bada boom.
The cockpit door.
All right.
Okay.
Can we put him on the blacklist now?
Yes. Liz, you see something from Alex, just put it in the trash like you were before.
Yeah. Just keep doing it there. That one slipped through.
How did that one slip through?
Wah, wah.
What's the difference between a flight attendant and a jet engine?
I know the answer. I'm going to keep my mouth shut, though.
I think I should probably not answer either.
Something about whining.
Yes.
Yes.
The jet engines stop whining when you get to the gate.
Ouch.
Do bam. Oh, wait. I have that.
There
we go.
I've got a very similar one about black boxes, but I can't tell it on air.
Yeah, thank you.
I get one. I get a very similar one about washing machines and flight attendants, but I can't say that
yeah,
one.
those, yeah.
All right. So as HR, I'd like to move on from. I'd like to thank Alex for his very wonderful feedback.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Really,
We
thank
like
you.
the questions and moving on.
Okay. Well,
From the
this is
jokes.
going to be fun because this is from a gentleman named Bruce. And he says, Dear Captain Jeff and crew, I'm sure that during this past year, you have been concerned over the health of your fellow aviator and captain, namely Captain Jerry. Oh, right.
We have been.
We haven't heard from
How
Captain
did you
Jerry.
know, Bruce?
Yeah. He emerged from his coma last month, just as his coma fund ran out.
Good timing.
I didn't know there was a coma fund, but apparently Jerry has one of those. And anyway, now back at Alpha Airlines and still in the left seat, he is pursuing his goal of educating us in everything concerned with aviation, just as you attempt to do. Thank you. I've sent you a recent clip from his podcast. Purely coincidentally, I'm a voice actor and have included my profile webpage with this feedback. And we'll put this in the show notes because...
I've had to listen to his profile. And I'm going to have some fun with that.
Oh, no.
Yes.
So Bruce Bowden, I'll have all the information in the show notes, and you can check out Bruce. He's a wonderful voice actor, but it has nothing to do at all with Captain Jerry and Captain Jerry's podcast. And he said he sent us an excerpt from it. And with that, I think we need to play it. What do you think?
Yoo-hoo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Go for it.
Let's do it.
Navy pilots a cappella band, the Flying Crotchets, not the most heavily funded of the military bands. Well, I'm Captain Jerry, and I'm back out of my coma. I guess you found it all very difficult carrying on without me, right? Absolutely, Jerry. Extremely difficult. It was hard. So, Captain Vic, what have you been up to? Sorry, what have you been? No, what have you been doing? Well, Jerry, I've been convalescing with a nasty case of photographer's elbow, actually. Finding it tough, huh, pushing that little toy joystick in your Airbus? Well, it's not the effort, Jerry, it's the position. So, how long's it been now since you've done a trip? Well, the last time was, let's see, August 2017. So, recently, I've flown more than you, and I've been in a coma for a year. Yow! Well, actually, it's a Swiss cheese model, isn't it, Jerry? All the holes lining up at the same time. Well, that's some piece of cheese. And now over to Dr. Stefania, private pilot, skydiver, marathon runner, ex-Black Ops commando, and sci-fi joint doctor. Now, Doc, some listeners have been writing in and said your marathon running is good cover for an assassin. You know, you're in and out of a major city in a few days. You can lose yourself in a crowd of thousands. What do you think of that? Well, Jerry, if I told you, I'd have to kill you. That's really funny, Doc. I'm not joking, Jerry. Well, well, is there anything you can tell us? So last week I performed a new procedure on one of my patients in conjunction with my colleagues. I jumped out of a plane with the patient strapped to my back, and my colleagues each got hold of one of her limbs and separated in different directions. I like to call it three-dimensional traction. Yow! So did it work? Well, she can now cross her legs for the first time in 10 years. I think I can see your dog Pop-Tart. Is that what you call him? That's him, Jerry. I call him Pop-Tart because he burned his lips on a Pop-Tart as a puppy. Well, I guess you don't eat those anymore. No, I've got a baguette at the moment with some Philadelphia on it. Oh, no. Did you say Philadelphia? I'm sorry, Danny. Yow! The Patriots were supposed to come back. There, old chap. I'm sure your team will play properly next time. Stop the show. Turn it off.
Wow.
That's
That was brilliant.
Pop-Tart.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. That's
I
the
think
new
that he
name,
I'm so glad
Taco.
Captain Jerry is back. We really were concerned over the past year about
He
his
has
health and
got
well-being.
Steph's voice nailed. That was
Exactly.
awesome.
Oh, absolutely. The best of all.
Yes. That was great. That was definitely worth the wait, Bruce.
Yes.
Yeah.
So please pass on to Captain Jerry that we missed him and we want to hear more from him.
And we thought Fred was in the CIA, but it's actually Steph.
Yeah, I know.
Good cover, Steph.
I don't know what you're talking about. Any resemblance to Dr. Stefania is purely
I can
coincidental,
neither
I'm sure.
confirm nor deny. Is that right?
Mhm, mhm, mhm. I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you, obviously.
stuff,
Nice
good
one.
stuff.
Nice one, Bruce.
All right. Wow, that was fun. Liz sent this for us, and this was an interesting story. I'm not sure I'm going to read all of it, but we'll get the gist here. Act of bravery by 4 Swedish pilots over 30 years ago, finally recognized by the U.S. military after the entire incident was declassified. More than 31 years ago, the relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union remained icy, and the Berlin Wall had yet to come down. U.S. Air Force pilots were engaged in secret reconnaissance missions aboard the legendary SR-71 Blackbird spy plane. Many of those flights occurred over international waters in the Baltic Sea. These sorties were known as Baltic Express missions. The SR-71 pilots would fly their aircraft at high altitudes while gathering imagery on key Russian bases, such as the Soviet Navy's Northern Fleet on the Kola Peninsula from international airspace. During one such mission on June 29th, in 1987, a Blackbird flown by retired Lieutenant Colonels Duane Knoll and Tom Veltri experienced an engine failure. The crew descended to roughly 25,000 feet over Swedish airspace, where they were intercepted by two pairs of Swedish Air Force Saab 37. Is it Viggen? Is that the way you pronounce that? You're muted.
Yes, Jeff, that's exactly right.
Viggen, thank you. Fighter jets. The Swedes were more than simply intercepting a wayward aircraft. They were offering defense from any opportunistic Soviets looking to harass an enemy spy plane on the Fritz. Given the tight corridor in the Baltic Sea, accidental airspace violations weren't out of the realm of possibility, and Soviet fighter aircraft might have been looking for any reason, however slight, to enter into an air-to-air altercation. This mission remained classified until last year, but with declassification has come official acknowledgement for services rendered. On November 28th in Stockholm, the U.S. Air Force finally presented 4 Swedish pilots with air medals for their actions back in 1987, according to a video of the ceremony posted by the Pentagon. Let's see. We were performing an ordinary peacetime operation exercise, recalled retired Major Roger Moller, one of the Swedish Air Force pilots. Our fighter controller then asked me, "Are you able to make an interception and identification of a certain interest?" I thought immediately it must be an SR-71. Otherwise, he would have mentioned it. But at the time, I didn't know it was the Blackbird. U.S. Air Force Major General John Williams salutes the... Oh, that's the caption. Once the Swedish pilots intercepted the damaged SR-71, they decided to render support to the aircraft by defending it from potential third-party aircraft that might have tried to threaten it, according to the Air Medal citation. The pilots then accompanied the SR-71 beyond the territorial boundaries and ensured that it was safely recovered by American forces. I can't say enough about these gentlemen, said Veltri, one of the SR-71 pilots who was at the ceremony. I'm so amazingly grateful for what they did, but also for the opportunity to recognize them in the fashion we are doing. What these guys did is truly monumental. Noel, the other SR-71 pilot, was not able to be at the ceremony. However, he recorded a message which was played to those in attendance. And here's a quote: "Your obvious skills and judgment were definitely demonstrated on this or that fateful day many years ago. I want to thank you for your actions," Noel said. And it goes on. But anyway, very interesting story. And that's one of those things in the world of military aviation that a lot of the stuff that goes on is classified. And, you know, it's just got to be a certain amount of time before this stuff becomes declassified. And then, you know, can you imagine doing something like this that these pilots did for our SR-71 crew that really they couldn't tell anybody about, and nobody could, you know, give them the honor and respect that they deserve.
Yeah, it's a lovely story, isn't it? And these guys, you know, obviously knew their job, and they did it to the best of their ability. And my hats off to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always nice to see them, you know, getting the recognition that's due, even if it's however many years after the fact.
Exactly. But, you know, as Nick mentioned, you know, if you're a member of the military services, you know, you should expect that you're not going to be recognized for, you know, things that this is just what you do. You know,
True. Doesn't mean it's not nice when it does.
But yes, it is. I agree with you so much. It's so much nicer to actually get recognition for, you know, above and beyond.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the same about it. The guys out there in Sweden and Norway were much closer to the threat than we were. So they were obviously much more on edge. And it's nice that they were able to give assistance. Sorry, Dana, go ahead.
No, I was just going to comment and say it's amazing. You know, people can make choices in life, and their choice was to, you know, put life and limb in the way of harm, possibly. And that's really commendable of them. And what Jeff just said, I absolutely agree. You know, they don't do it for the glory. They don't, you know, military members out there, you know, they serve their respective country with the honor and commitment, and don't always get the recognition they deserve.
Well said.
Very, very well said. Okay, and then finally in our news folder we have this from James. I don't think it's from James Balch, though. Is it a different James?
James Graves Brown.
Oh, James Graves Brown. And let's see. He sent a link to an article from avweb.com. And it says a fledgling California airline says it's canceling flights until further notice because of a shortage in pilots. California Pacific Airlines began service to and from its base in Carlsbad, California, in November with 4 50-seat ERJ 145s and was plagued with delays and cancellations shortly after it launched. In one case, a plane was damaged when it was hit by a backhoe on a ramp in Pierre, South Dakota, but other cancellations were blamed on mechanical issues. In late December, the airline announced it was canceling all flights until it could get more pilots hired and trained. The airline's reservation website shows no availability through the end of February. Airline officials told the NBC San Diego affiliate that the company hoped to resume service in February. Those who have booked flights in January will get refunds. The airline lists its destinations as Las Vegas, Phoenix, Reno, and San Jose, with one-way fares starting at about $100. So, just more evident the pilot shortage or lack of people willing to do this job for the money and benefits that are being offered are affecting some of these smaller carriers. Just a note, Carlsbad, I believe, it's either the airport or very close to or in the general area, as our good friend and fellow podcaster Brandon Gonzalez, who does the podcasting on a plane podcast. So I'm sure that he's had experience with working with this company, not working for them, but he's an air traffic controller. So I'm sure he's heard of this company. And I don't know what else to say other than that. All right.
I mean, I think this is, again, a great opportunity for those that listen to the show to realize, unless it's a major world event, the shortage is going to continue to broaden. And I think if you've ever thought or considered or have been considering a career change in going out there to live your dream, this is just the beginning of the iceberg. So I really think if you want to go for it, and don't live with regrets, because this is an extreme example. I think it's may be an extreme reaction, especially for an airline that is not so mainline, more, or even a regional. But what I'm talking about is that they're not a very well known carrier. But I think this is just a telltale sign that the opportunities are there. Just go ahead and pursue it.
Yeah, in the case of this company, it may have been more about their general business plan and their route network, that kind of thing.
Well, it's hard. I mean, it's not easy to start an airline, especially a small one and a startup. And
of course, it's very easy to blame defenseless people that can't really defend themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So it's easy to point the finger at the pilots.
Yeah, we can't find any good pilots to fly our airplane, so
yeah, exactly.
We're having trouble. We're gonna have to shut down for a while.
Yeah.
So,
but an airline of that size isn't going to be able to offer very good terms, so hardly surprising they're not finding people.
Oh, but what's amazing, 10 years ago, people would be clamoring for these jobs. They would,
of course, yeah, house builders,
yeah, beg, borrowing, and stealing just to get a job like this. Now, most people are turning their noses up at it. This is just a very small example. If you look at all segments, you get the better known regionals that are known to be not such great places to work. You get classes that are going completely unfilled or very few people showing up. Even some of the larger airlines, people are being more selective as to whether they show up for class or not. It's definitely out there. It's definitely an issue. So, the mainline carriers, I don't think they're gonna feel it for a while yet, but it's certainly affecting the throughput of people coming up from other avenues.
Yeah, as we always say, it's all to do with, or a lot to do with, timing. And the timing is just not right for a startup such as California Pacific Airlines. But what the timing is right for is for us to close this show. And so I'll do that by saying, if you want to learn more about our crew, about the community, which is the best part of all of this, head over to airlinepilotguide.com. And we have apps for your iPhone and Android devices. Just go to your app stores and put in a search for Airline Pilot Guy. They're free apps and ad-free. Great way to engage with the show and the community. And we're also on social media.
We are. You can head over to Twitter, and our handle there is @APGCrew, individual information pinned to the top of the page. You can also head over to Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. All kinds of good stuff going on there. Folks who are part of the community, interested in the show, sharing news stories and items of interest. And I will pass it over to Hillel for Slack.
Hillel, come on out.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share ideas and news. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled HI11E1, Hotel India 11 Echo 1. And see you in Slack.
And a big round of applause and thank you to our producer, Liz Piper.
Yeah, hooray!
To organize this whole thing,
Thank you,
keeping
Liz.
this thing running. Thank you, Liz. We couldn't do it without you. And finally, until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Adios, muchachos.
That good today, huh?
No, I'm just kidding. I just happened to see that one there and thought I'd play it.
And what a beautiful cock it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
The rooster we're talking about there.
Yes.
Yes. The one down in Grand Cayman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big rooster.
It was a big old rooster.
Beautiful, too.
I bet you it was. Wait, so you're in Sarasota?
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah. The Indigo in Sarasota.
Yeah, I recognize it. That's where I was supposed to be last week.
It's a very, I didn't notice how nice that mural of a wall is behind me until I turned the camera on and went, oh, wow, look at that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's first thing I recognized.
So, and that's when you were with us last week and at the Warwick, I immediately recognized that room. And that setup. Sorry about the video difficulties there. I was trying to use the screen sharing capability.
Well, it worked well for a while.
And it just got overwhelmed. What are you doing? You keep trying to change things. And okay, I'm just going to disable your camera then.
Yes, it's just spiteful.
You got put in camera jail is what happened.
What's that?
So you got put in camera jail.
Oh, I
That's
did.
what happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Put in timeout. That's literally what happened. They put me in timeout. I said,
Please don't. No more pictures.
You're
pictures,
overtaxing the system. Just put up your stupid little one image, and that's all we need right now. Anyway.
All right. Before we forget, recorders.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Stop.
Of course, mine is way past
I know,
yours.
but we'll figure it out. I mean, if we need to use it, I think your audio was pretty good. And again, it probably has everything to do with my end of everything. But there were times when Nick and Steph were kind of like coming in really garbled and stuff. So I'll definitely have to use theirs, but I don't think I'll have to use Dana's, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll send it to you just in case.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, thanks everybody for hanging with us today. I hope you enjoyed the entertainment aspect, not necessarily the educational aspect of the show.
There was some education.
Yeah.
A
I was
smattering.
educated.
What? Like what? Like what?
I can't remember now. It's too long ago.
Yeah.
What was that? 336?
356.
556.
That's funny. I typed the exact same thing at first. I said, "Ooh, that's not right."
Oh, very odd.
Hmm.
Right, 3.
Interesting. Great minds think alike, I guess.
Yeah, really.
Well, interesting after our discussion of the crew inputting the wrong weight.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
And both of them not catching it.
Yeah, so
There
you
you
two
go.
are the ones
Perfect
to
example.
worry about.
Yeah. Keep an eye on
So,
us.
Tanya, hopefully I'll get to see you tomorrow. And Dave, I don't think he's with us in the chat room, but good to see him too. And then looks like a Columbus meetup is going to be nice tomorrow.
Yeah, just going to be James, my first officer, and hopefully, well, at least see Jen at the airport tomorrow. She's not so sure she can make it. You know, she's got work to do. Poor girl has to work. So, yeah, looking forward to that.
So was that?
Go ahead.
No, that was Dana.
Is that okay? It was all broken up. Thankfully, it was pretty decent when we were doing the show, but that was like.
Oh, it's because he's downloading his audio.
Ah, that's it.
Yeah, I know these things.
Well, you're
I'm
so
sorry.
smart.
That's right. I'm probably the same because I'm downloading mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is waiting for sync to complete.
Okay.
I don't know if it.
Yeah, no,
actually synced or not, though.
Can you hear me now, or is it still downloading?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me
hear you
now?
now.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And then actually I'm going to post some other ones out there for this coming month. Good to see. I'm trying to figure out what I have here.
I was hoping to put a graphic of the $6 million man, Steve Austin, on there.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But I couldn't because my technology was saying, nope, we're not going to
You
do
need to have a word with Nev or Matt or something.
Yeah. No, I
Nah.
don't want to get to
Don't care that much.
Nah.
I mean, I could do, I could up the video stuff up a notch, but then that would be more equipment and
more hassle.
So, whatever. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this.
Do you guys know if you have any listeners in Nashville?
Sorry, that one was completely unintelligible.
Okay. Damn it.
Oh, we got
Send us a
Dammit.
text about it.
Right. Dammit came through loud and clear.
Perfect.
What? Go ahead. Try it again.
That's okay. I was asking if you had Novane listeners in Nashville area.
Nashville. Yeah, we got listeners in Nashville.
Okay, I'll put it out there.
Yeah. We got listeners everywhere. And Turkey, for goodness sakes.
How about the Antarctic?
Maybe down at Murdo.
I doubt it.
Murdo.
Okay. Not everywhere, but almost everywhere.
No, I would almost guarantee that somebody down in Murdo listens to the show.
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Owen, for that translation of Dana.
Nashville. That's pretty close. Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Wow.
You nailed it, actually.
Verbatim.
We still don't really understand what it
Phonetic.
was.
All right, here we go. Let's try this. Here we go. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
I said probably Murdo down in in the Antarctic.
Yeah.
Murdo Station.
Could be. Or McMurdo.
McMurdo or something like
that. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for hanging with us on this Wednesday, the 2nd of January. And it's getting close to 8:30 Eastern time. So I'm sure that for a lot of us, it's time to start thinking about getting ready for bed.
Bed.
So
yes. That's
we're gonna go
exactly
ahead
what
and-
I was thinking about.
I'm not flying till sort of like 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
Well, we're not talking about you, Nick.
Yeah, not
You're
talking about you,
excluded.
Nick.
You sure,
Yeah.
guys?
Some people have to work in the morning, Nick.
You're always on the go, aren't you? Bloody
We
hell.
are.
I don't know how you do it.
We actually work. Hey,
No,
Jeff.
You don't
Yeah.
call that working. Flying sunshine.
Working.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the
Some of us,
broadcast.
some of us have
and
to work. All right,
I'm
goodbye,
going to stop the
everyone.
broadcast, and then we can chat a little bit
We
after
can
that.
bitch and moan.
Bitch and moan.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.